Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso says if elected as Nigeria's president, unity, security and robust education will take the front burner from 2023. Unveiling his blueprint in Abuja, the new Nigeria People's Party's presidential candidate promised to turn global attention to Nigeria through robust economic policies.
Our government is not going to be the rigid type of government. We will listen to Nigerians because we believe at the end of the day, it is only Nigerians that can vote for president to be on seat.
In the meantime, presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Tinubu, has described the organized private sector and government as inseparable allies that should combat joblessness and improve the gross domestic product (GDP) through strategic partnership. He made this remark at an interactive session with the business community in Lagos.
Production, excellence in new areas such as light manufacture and non-food entertainment sector. Through active participation in digital economy.
Meanwhile, the Atiku Okowa presidential ticket of the People's Democratic Party is engaging strategic stakeholders in its efforts towards rebuilding Nigeria to an enviable position if elected in 2023. This formed part of issues at a media briefing by the strategic communication arm of the council in Abuja.
Our candidate is busy round the clock because one, he has the experience, two, he has the network, he knows who to talk to, and he knows what to say to them. He has the register, what we call register in literature, the right kind of communication.
Well, that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kieran and Kingsley after this break. Do stay with us.
It's a new dawn for Nigeria. Oh, better days are coming. Better days that gives us hope and strength. To keep this hope alive, bring the smiles back to all Nigerians.
It's a new dawn in Nigeria. Renewed hope beckons on our people. The silver lining dots the skies. The firmament portents a bright future as the people of Nigeria move to vote a man whom they have come to trust for the realization of their aspirations for a better Nigeria. That man is Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. He has been tested. He can be trusted. Vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as President of Nigeria 2023. Vote Kashim Shettima as Vice President. Vote APC. Surely with Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the smiles are returning. We are close to home.
Bring the smiles back to all Nigerians.
The 35th National Festival of Arts and Culture, Ekona Fest 2022, with the theme Culture and Peaceful Coexistence, holds from Monday the 7th to Sunday 13th November 2022 at the National Stadium, National Institute for Sports, Lagos State. Time 10 a.m. daily. The official opening ceremony will take place on Wednesday 9th November 2022. Time 11 a.m. Venue Mobolaji Johnson Arena, formerly Onikon Stadium, Lagos State. Ekona Fest 2022, promoting culture and peaceful coexistence. Otumba Olusegun Urunsewe, OON, Chairman, National Festival Planning Committee, Announcer. Media partners: NTA, AIT, LTV, FRCN, Eagle 7, Sports Radio, and Discon Television.
When times are tough, we know that as a mother, one thing you should never compromise on is your family's oral health because they deserve the best. Oral-B, all-round protection. Its great value, it protects your mouth from harmful bacteria and also protects you against tooth holes and gum problems which can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your family's teeth and gives them all-round protection. So remember, protect their future. Oral-B for healthier, stronger teeth in just 1 week.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message from the National Orientation Agency.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. It's time for business news, and we join our correspondent, Aleka Opanachi Arwa.
Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment, Mariam Katagum, has restated the ministry's efforts to support initiatives that will lead to economic growth and development, especially for micro, small and medium enterprises in the country. She stated this at the second Visibility and Awareness event of the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, posed as showcasing the milestones and achievements towards strengthening the capacity of local MSMEs and manufacturers to produce high-quality personal protective equipment (PPEs) and healthcare-related products. She observed that since the inception of the project, 162 MSMEs have benefited and are benefiting from technical and training assistance provided by UN agency and UNEDO. She notes that the implementation of the project has contributed to boosting the economy and opening Nigeria's healthcare-related products to the international market due to the immense work which has gone into empowering MSMEs in the production of high-quality PPEs in line with international best practices. Katagum maintained that MSMEs are the life wire of any growing economy, as it constitutes the big pillar from which any economy can start from. With business news, Alika Opanachi, Arua.
Thank you indeed, Alika, for that business package. Next on Good Morning Nigeria is newspaper review. All right, it's now time for newspaper review, and I have the Sun newspaper here, Kingsley.
I also have the Punch newspaper. Maybe we'll also have the opportunity of taking the leadership once we're able to get a copy of that to project on the screen for you. But let's begin with the Punch newspaper. Of course, as always, the front page of the Punch is busy. Above the name flag, it's a start story. It says Davido. That's the kicker. Autopsy likely as police free 6 workers and detain 2. Grieving Davido and Chioma keep mum as artists, celebs and fans lament Ifeanyi's death. Osun PDP suspends political activities. Atiku, Tinubu, Obi, and governors condole. Well, that story, of course, relates to David Adeleke, otherwise known as Davido, whose 3-year-old son with his fiancée, Chioma, drowned in the swimming pool at his residence on Banana Island in Lagos. You can see the photograph of the 3-year-old you find there, also on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Why I'm better than Atiku and Obi on the economy. That's a claim by Tinubu. Details on page 27. How late Olumakaye battled illness in UK hospital. According to an associate, the late Olumakaye, of course, was the Bishop of the Diocese of Lagos, as well as the Archbishop of that area. Late Olumakaye was 53 years old, and he passed away some days ago. Dollar crisis, that's the kicker. EFCC plans massive raid on forex dealers. Naira's free fall worsens, now 857 naira. Abuja forex dealers flee into hiding. Kogi politician arrested with 326 million. BDC operators back commission. And you see the photographs there on the front page. Kogi State House of Assembly candidate of the NNPP and two others after they were caught with 326 million naira and 610,500 US dollars cash. And this happened on Tuesday. But according to the EFCC, and of course the story is also detailed there, this was the result of a sting operation. They had scammed the bank of some amounts running into well over 1 billion naira. And this was part of the loot that was recovered from them, including the Range Rover cars that you see in the photograph there. That's the allegation by the EFCC. Federal government to concession at Jakarta and Itakbe. I'm saying Itakba there. There's no place like Itakba unless it's some location. It should be Itakbe. So that's the printer's devil that found its way to the foot of the front page of the Punch. Road contractors owed 11 trillion naira, according to Fashola. Campaign Kwankwaso to recruit 1.5 billion soldiers and policemen. Kieran.
Yes, let's turn to the Sun newspaper. The Sun newspaper, just beside the main plate, oil marketers dump official ex-depot price as fuel scarcity persists. That's on page 2. And below that, we have, just as Kingsley read earlier on, EFCC arrests Kogi Assembly candidate with cash of 326 million naira. And of course, the lead story on the Sun newspaper today, Autumn gives Atiku conditions for support. Warns PDP candidate of consequences of ignoring 5 governors. The full details of that story is on page 6. Now, 10 unidentified corpses discovered in Edo. The story is on pages 4 and 25. We are verifying security alert by US, according to Defense Minister. It's on page 26. On page 27, we have outrage as Davido's son drowns at home. Police grow in domestic. Well, of course, I think we read that. We may have to also discuss that in the when we begin to do analysis. Now, Carlo emerges 2022 Senator of the Year in constituency projects on page 3. Mbazulike Amechi exit of Last Titan. Of course, he's of course one of the remaining first Republic minister. All right, now medical trip. Buhari not transmitting power to Oshimbajo unconstitutional, according to Clark. That story is on page 28. 2023, just at the bottom of the Sun newspaper. Okowa to Igbo, don't abandon PDP candidate, your son-in-law. All right.
Well, yeah, Kira, let's also look at the leadership front page. Some of the stories we read from the other 2 papers are also indicated there. For instance, Bazoleke, who was just passed on at the age of 93, Mbazuluike Amechi was Nigeria's first Republic Minister of Aviation. And then the story of Davido being condoled by presidential candidates and others. Now, redesigning Naira won't check rising inflation. That's according to analysts. We're looking at the front page now of the Leadership newspaper. Redesigning Naira won't check rising inflation, according to analysts. Ignore G5 at your own peril, or Tom warns PDP. 2023 campaign, Atiku, Tinubu, Kwankwanso offer solutions to ailing economy. And APC flag bearer targets 10% GDP growth in US to attract investments to Nigeria. That's according to Atiku, former vice president. Our job creation plan will reposition the economy. That's according to Kwankwanso of NNPP. Naira depreciates further to 800 at parallel market. And by Courtney decries picketing by workers at Lagos Airport. EFCC probes $6 billion Mambila power project. Terror alerts devastating to economy, according to the federal government. Kieran?
All right. Now, I think we should start from humanitarian. Sorry, the Davido's son's death. I don't know whether you had discussed that earlier on, perhaps yesterday.
No, we didn't discuss it yesterday.
Because a 3-year-old child, was involved here, and you talk about domestic hands that we have these days. We have well over 8 domestic staff, and I want to believe that some of them would have been responsible for that child. At the time whatever happened, and these are, for me, is some level of carelessness. Of course, one could say yes, it's God's willing, but again, I mean, it could have been. It could have been averted. I mean, if somebody has done his or her work rightly. So I feel for the family. It's a young family trying to build up, and they're losing a son at this point. I commiserate with them, personally.
Well, it's a very big blow to the young Davido and Chioma, his fiancée. That's our prayer. Anywhere around the world is that we should never bury our own children. It's unfortunate that this has happened, and the police, of course, have already moved in. They picked up some of the workers. 2 of them are still being held, while 6 have been freed. I don't know the design of the house of the Davidos on Banana Island. That's, of course, an upscale area in Lagos. But I tell you something. In Southern Africa, in years past, probably still the case, drowning was not an uncommon event, especially drowning in swimming pools, because most of the affluent neighborhoods had swimming pools in each of the houses. I mean, you had no cost to go to a public swimming pool. I'm talking about Southern Africa. If you were flying, for instance, and it's still the case, if you're flying over Johannesburg, you take off from OR Tambo Airport, and you'll be seeing small, well, as Nigerians would say, tiny bluish pills as they will appear from that height. Those are swimming pools. The same thing with Harare, the same thing with Windhoek. I recall that in Harare, the Herald newspaper, which was the government-owned newspaper, always took it as a front-page story if there was a drowning incident. And what then happened was there was a requirement, and this was strictly enforced, of ensuring that you had made metal grill and a gate to the swimming pool. That metal grill, of course, will make it more challenging for a toddler to crawl into the swimming pool, because the swimming pool is usually very attractive to children because of the bluish tiles that are used for it. So I don't know as I said, I don't know the design or the construction. Is there a metal grill around it? Is there a gate that, of course, a child cannot open on his or her own?
What funny thing, about the way we design our houses these days? But of course, those who have the wherewithal in terms of the financial muscle, to engage in a modern architecture and all of that. People have swimming pool, even in the first and second story floors. They have even in the third floor, they have well beautifully designed swimming pools up there. And one would wonder anyway, why would you have swimming pool at different floors of the house? Well, you have the money to do that, but again, there are of course disadvantages to that. And even in my own village, I have somebody who has such a structure, and a swimming pool upstairs. And I mean, it's risky, especially when you have toddlers, as this young family has, and it's a big risk, doing that, And again, I still blame the person that should be responsible for that toddler. I mean, that after all said and done, you have to do a 3-year-old.
That's
10 minutes on the road.
That's the point. If you have what is called a suspended swimming pool, such as you're talking about, first it's a bit complicated to construct, and more importantly, it's expensive to maintain.
Exactly.
Because water is very heavy. And for you to have, I recall there was this famous hotel there in Windhoek. It was called Kalahari Sands Hotel. They had a swimming pool right on the roof of the hotel in Namibia. But the key thing, Kiria, for all those because swimming pools are no longer very fashionable for us. Look, okay, let me mention this where I lived as a foreign correspondent was my publisher's house. A very wealthy man, of course, everybody knows him. He's late now. The swimming pool was right beside the house. Right beside the house. Are you following? Right beside the house. Of course, there were no children around, and so, but it was also walled around, and then you had a gate that you had to lock at all material times, except the swimming pool was going to be used.
Okay.
So you went to other locations, it was the same. So if you have a swimming pool at home, be sure that there is a metal grade that it's like the balconies that we have. When you have a balcony, and these days nobody uses the concrete balustrades. That is the concrete. Everybody is now using the either the wrought iron, or you are using galvanized steel or aluminum products. But you have to design it in such a way that because children are very adventurous. They sometimes want to play, by squeezing themselves in between the pipes. And sometimes they just tumble and fall. It's a very sad development. But of course, if there was negligence, then sanctions have to attach.
All right. Now, EFCC arrests a Kogi Assembly candidate with cash of over 326 million naira. So, what are we talking about here? Because my mind, goes straight to the current decision by the Central Bank of Nigeria to launch redesigning and exchange of naira. Because a lot of monies are being carried in bags, and like somebody just sent me something on the platform to show people who stock some naira,
already
rotten naira, inside a truck, big truck. So what does that supposed to mean? It means that the people are stocking naira somewhere, some burying it underground, and what have you. So what's the essence of that?
Well, I'm sure you have also read some comments, and I mean, it's a bit difficult to disagree with those comments. That look, Nigeria is not a poor country. You just have, as some of the comments have said, just wicked, selfish, and greedy elements who are taking these monies and burying them. And now that you have this kind of policy, everyone is scrambling. I find that the money, of course, is already rotting, and so on and so forth. But I don't see why the EFCC should be planning a massive raid on forex dealers. No, and this is part of what I thought the central bank should have done. To say, look, you call in all the other agencies, don't operate in a silo. Part of what you want to do is to be sure that there is no dirty money in there. If I say dirty money, some will say black money. I mean, we are black, so we don't say black money. Blood money, dirty money, filthy money, money from corruption or from fraud and all kinds of things. You don't want that money polluting the economy. So what EFCC should have done, and I think they should also do it, look, there is a limit to cash transactions at BDCs. So you set up sting operations. What are sting operations? You pose as though you were going to exchange money. Any person that exchanges such money over and above the required limit or the stipulated limit, the person gets into the can. And you do this, on a wide scale across the country at different times. They have announced, that's why I'm making this comment. But I should imagine that is part of the plan. You do this repeatedly. if the BDC themselves, if they know that, or the Bureau de Change, or those malams or whoever they are changing money, if they know that they will be in the can while the matter is not being resolved before January 31st, nobody will touch dirty money anymore. So those who don't have the money, we will see where they will. Those who have the money that they are hiding, we will see where the thing will go.
As a matter of fact, a lot is going to happen, when that process begins. And
you and I have been seeing you have been seeing the videos. Some of them have been doing them as if it's grains that they are putting on the.
Exactly. Of course, many people have spoken against the plan by the CBN, but we are beginning to see some of the advantages.
Is it timing?
The timing is also good, because politicians are also mopping up some money. Politicians are also part of this thing. You have done.
The politicians already mopped up theirs.
They are mopped up there. They are also working with the PDCs and what have you. So they could also be trapped in the process, because they may inject that kind of money into the political process, and thereby being able to buy voters, as the case may be. So that's also going to work.
So if EFCC doesn't have enough personnel, let them hire personnel from other anti-corruption agencies. NFIU is there, ICPC is there, and they have sting operations. Exactly. So the more of the forex dealers you are able to raid, and the more of them you take into the can, and then begin immediate prosecution. Then when you bring your, I'm not saying your money, I don't know how much you have. But
all right, we'll just have to call it a day here. Yes. On newspaper review for today. We thank you for staying with us. We will return again tomorrow with this segment. For now, let's take a short break. When we return, we shall be looking at the devastating effect of flooding to the nation's economy. Do stay with us.
The security situation in Nigeria has been reasonably stable in spite of activities of unpatriotic elements engaged in various criminal activities around the country. Daily situation reports coming in from states. 2 months ago, it has shown relative peace on many of our highways, such as Abuja, Kaduna Birnin Gwari, Sokoto, Zamfara, Kaduna.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dssPR@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
What we face mostly now are flashes of cowardly attacks from the rump of groups that have been routed in one location or the other, moving to another to give the false impression that they are still strong. Our ultimate goal is to eliminate them altogether. and restore total and lasting peace over every inch of the Nigerian soil. Sounding tall, we take it home. We are determined to ensure that every inch of the Nigerian soil is safe. That determination is there. The order has been given. But we shall continue to protect the lives and property of Nigerians and foreigners in our midst. We shall continue to work for the peace of the nation and deter elements that constitute threats to the people. We shall bear the full powers of the government to secure every inch of our land. We shall not rest until peace is fully restored to Nigeria.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The Nigerian Television Authority (NTA), in collaboration with Havel Corporate Concept, presents Beyond the Debate, a series for all the 18 presidential candidates in the 2023 general elections to present their manifestos and visions to the Nigerian public as a social contract. Beyond the Debate will broadcast live on the network service of the NTA and stream on YouTube and other social media platforms beginning from 10th November 2022. The publicly signed manifestos by the candidates will be uploaded on this portal, www.summitofpoliticalparties.org. For further inquiries, please contact Dr. Padanga 08033173488. Howard 08033121022.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, as a prompt for our conversation, which is on the devastating impacts of flooding on the nation's economy, we take this background out by our correspondent, Joseph Osen.
Years of investment were trillions of naira washed off in 7 months. Authorities report the 2022 flood has recorded more than 600 deaths and displaced an estimated 1.4 million people. About 100,000 houses, 140 hectares of farms across 33 states and the FCT submerged as Nigeria faces one of its worst floods in decades. The flooding is already taking a toll on Nigeria's economy as inflation surges to 20.77% in September 2022. It is not just about the submerged buildings and large farmlands, but disruption of supply chain of food, petroleum products and other production items as floodwaters are taking over federal highways and bringing down bridges. For instance, fuel tankers conveying premium motor spirit (PMS) to North Central and Abuja along Lokoja-Abuja Road were stranded for about 3 weeks because of the flooding crisis.
It is clear to us that there will be a food crisis in the state. Right now, Bayelsa State has been totally cut off because corridors to the rest of the country, which is through River State and Delta State, the east-west road on both ends have been cut into 2.
Many businesses relying on fuel for energy are still counting losses, while prices of food items have continued to increase, with economic experts attributing it to shortage of supply and cost of transporting goods through alternative routes.
Fundamentally, the economy is in cost of living crisis. You are in cost of living crisis when an average household, his income cannot compete with various demands of that household. That is the first crisis.
Like Nigeria, the International Monetary Fund has warned that the recent incident of flooding in some states in Nigeria will worsen food insecurity and lead to further increase in food prices across the country. It has stressed the need for immediate social assistance to affected persons and businesses. But how far can this go to cushion the impact and help businesses rebuild after damage done to some lifetime ventures? The devastation of the flood on the nation's economy and a way out is what will engage guests on Good Morning Nigeria.
That's Joseph Osem with that background report. And now joining us in the studio to discuss the topic is Emeka Okengu. Emeka Okengu is a development economist. We're glad to have you today again.
Glad to be here. Good morning. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. And also with us this morning is Kabiru Ibrahim, member, Board of Trustees, National Agricultural Foundation of Nigeria. It's also a pleasure to have you this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
And part of this conversation is a regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria, Professor Emmanuel Adano. Professor Adano is Director General of the National Water Resources Institute in Kaduna. Professor Adano, we're glad to have you in our studios this morning.
Thank you very much.
Okay, of course, you will see Professor Adano presently on your screen, and there he is, the regular face, as I said, on Good Morning Nigeria. Expecting another guest to join us. I want to begin this conversation with Professor Emmanuel Adano, and I never forgot what you said on Good Morning Nigeria some years ago, that flooding is not altogether a bad phenomenon because of the alluvial deposits and the nutrients that come from other places to fertilize the soils. But today we are looking at the devastating consequences of the flooding of 2022. It appears that the flooding is receding in parts of the Federation, but just give us your general assessment of what we have been faced with this year.
Well, in terms of the flood, just as you mentioned, some years back we said flooding could also be profitable if it doesn't affect some critical infrastructure. It can deposit materials for agriculturalists. It's also a way of recharging your aquifer, the groundwater, which is normally I'll call it your balance of water, like a savings. Flooding does that, especially in some parts of the country when the groundwater recharge is very small. And now, but when the water is too much for you to contain and then starts affecting some infrastructure, it becomes a problem. And that's what has happened. In 2012, we noticed that a lot of infrastructure in the country were affected. Roads, houses, agricultural appliances. But what we also noticed was that while these things were happening, we had the opportunity to summarize some of these things and make some adjustments in case a similar thing occurs in a foreseeable time. But statisticians will always come up and say, this is a 60-year flood, 30-year flood, and all this, so we relax. After it happens once, now we'll be expecting another 40, 50, 60 years for it to happen, statistically. But statistics is just an interpretation of things human beings do. So we didn't prepare for this one. It could happen again next year, but are we prepared sufficiently to curb it? We're not.
Okay, so I'm not stopping you.
Yes.
I just want to add some things so that you can a little bit give us a clue of what actually happened. Because I spoke with you on the phone some weeks ago with respect to the flooding, which of course we were expecting that may come. And you told me the flood that we had then could be flash floods and not necessarily as a result of the release of water from Gado Dam or dams elsewhere outside Nigeria. Now, what actually happened that this flooding has surpassed the one we saw in 2012? Because 10 years ago we had a similar thing, but this seems to have surpassed it in terms of overwhelming devastation that came with it. So what actually happened? I'm not taking us back, but because you are here, we're privileged to have you here today as the professional. We'll be able to now make it clearer as to what happened. Is it the release of water from other dams or floods as a result of a heavy rain?
Yes, thank you. That last statement is good. Results of heavy rain. Even the release from Lado Dam in Cameroon also was as a result of heavy rain. But incidentally, this year, we had a rainfall that surpassed the one of 2012, and it was concentrated in a short period. If I take you outside the Benue and Niger Valley, because most of these releases flow along this valley, the V-shape, Jigawa has no direct link with any of these major lines. But Jigawa was flooded, and almost annually Jigawa gets flooded. Because the rainfall that happened in that area this year, the rainfall about 4 years, happened in a few hours. In a few hours. So those intense rainfall concentrated over a short time, high intensity, in an environment that cannot transfer water easily because of the flatness. The channels are choked, very flat, and floodplains are available in the environment. So there was no capacity of this thing to convey and discharge elsewhere. And that has nothing to do with the Benue or Niger Valley. Now, Labdo Dam, because it is a culprit anytime we have a flood on that line. Labdo Dam has 8 billion cubic meters of water. The total volume of water that comes from Cameroon to Nigeria, according to our measurement, is about 13 billion cubic meters. Part of it is below Labdo. Now, if you release all the waters in Labdo, it can flood the environment. But you are releasing at a time about 600 cubic meters per second. You are releasing at a time. That is, in a day, it's about 50 million cubic meters of water into a valley that is already saturated due to the ambient flow within Nigeria, not from outside Nigeria. The valley was already saturated due to the ambient flow from other rivers, Taraba, Donga, Kasinala, many other rivers. So downstream of Lado was already saturated, and they had to release the water because it would threaten the dam itself. And if the dam breaks, that volume will come to the valley. So they are doing it as part of the operations of the dam. So that volume of water just added to a saturated environment. That's what happened.
All right, Professor Emmanuel Adano, thank you very much for your opening comments. Let's bring in Architect Kabiru Ibrahim. Architect Kabiru, of course, you are also a farmer, and you've discussed agricultural issues here with us on Good Morning Nigeria in the past. What do we know at this time as to the ravages of the floods in different parts of the country? I mean, we hear that 33 states of the Federation have been affected by floods, but what is it that we are hearing from farmers, at least in the interim?
Well, farmers all over the place are crying from losing every livelihood, every plantation, and in some areas a good chunk of it and all that. And this portends trouble for Nigeria, because already we have been contending with the insecurity, lack of mechanization, not very good seeds, the inflation, general inflation, the purchasing power of the naira and all that. And now this flooding is almost a pandemic, because it is affecting everywhere and everyone. As you said, the economy of the country is in trouble because of flooding. You have shown even the movement of fuels and all that is being affected and all that. And the farmers also transport whatever they have on these vehicles, and they go to the places they want to go on these vehicles, and everything is in that all over the place. And as Prof said, this is a systemic release of water from a place where if it is left, it will even fracture the whole place and everything will be turned upside down. And then we have had more rains than was even expected from anywhere by any analysis. And you remember also that sometime in February, the NIMET even gave us the predictions, which we told our farmers, and we told them where to avoid the planting and all that. But all those did not help, because where we didn't even anticipate flooding, it occurred. So there is a lot of desperation or despondency amongst the farming community in Nigeria. Because, you know, even the farmers buy food. You know, no farmer provides everything that he needs. So they also go to the market. And to my dismay, even those things that we thought we had sufficiency in are now costing very high. The local rice, for instance, is about 32,000 for 50 kg bag. The imported one is about 42,000. So, and the wages are stagnant. They remain the same. I'm sure the NTA has not changed salaries here. So people still go to the market and buy these things, and they are very exorbitant. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is that we are fearful that there may be serious turbulences in the food system. And anybody who thinks that that will not work is just living in denial.
All right, well, we are not praying for that to happen. You know, I like it when it said no farmer farms everything. So one way or another, a farmer goes to the market as well. So you'll be affected by any challenge along the chain, you know, of food delivery. Now, have you taken time, or perhaps you could say that it's still fresh, to know number of farmers affected by this disaster, and the number of acres of land, the kind of crops affected? Is it that all the crops produced in Nigeria will be affected by this flooding and what have you? And if you have data of the number of farmers or farmlands affected, how are the farmers they tend to put all that together to present their challenge with respect to financial losses, crop losses, and what have you?
Just like we don't know the number of farmers in Nigeria, we probably cannot know exactly I'm from the exact science.
You have farmer associations.
Now, I am coming to that. We have farmers and farmer leaders who come to say all of our people lost everything that they have planted, all the rice they planted, all the vegetable, sometimes all the corn and all that. But you do not have hard facts. And you know we are all Nigerians. It is foolhardy to come out here and tell you that this is the percentage or these are the number of farmers that have been affected. But I can tell you also that it is also possible to have an educated guess. If you take Jigawa, for instance, where Prof mentioned, there are some regions where the devastation is total. Yeah. People lost everything. And you know, the scientists say that there is some variety of rice that will resist flooding. But if the water does not recede for 5 days, even when the crop is blossoming, everything will be lost because the water has refused to recede. But you know, the logic is this, that because rice is also a flood crop, it needs a lot of water. People tend to think that no, it will get up. But then because of this devastation, what we have seen now this year, we have seen that these whole places were cleaned up. So even those who did not lose 100% will now say that they lost 100%. So in a nutshell, what we are working with is the farmers who planted rice in that region lost almost everything. And our advice to them is go back to those places when the waters recede. Plant. Harvest also where the waters refuse to recede to those places where there is no water. Use even manual canals and all that, take water there, harvest it, and plant from there. And learn to do this activity the year round. That is the only way, because Nigeria has to just look inwards. You can see this flooding is almost all over the world. I mean, you see flood waters spending days, weeks without receding, even in the United States, where all the infrastructure and everything is available. Okay. So this takes me to a fundamental issue. The changes that came about due to the climate. We have been in denial of this for a very long time. Even with all the advice and all that, all the things that we should do, we have not come to terms with the possible losses that we can incur from that denial. And this is where we are today. In Nigeria today, God forbid, may encounter more serious problems than we have been having. And you remember that over the last 2-3 years, we have just been seeing or witnessing a continuous degradation of our incomes or our purchasing capacity. The naira, the value of the naira is dwindling. Some of these prices that you see in the market have got so many threats that bring them about. The purchasing power of your currency is very low. There is scarcity of that food item. You cannot also import from anywhere to augment what you have internally. So the only thing left to you is to look inwards, invest properly, and put people who know what to do to be in charge of the planning or the policies that you have.
All right, Architect Kabir Ibrahim, thank you very much for your comments. Let's bring in now Dr. Emeka Okengu. Dr. Emeka Okengu, of course, a development economist and also another farmer in our midst. What's your reading of the impact of the floods this year?
Reading is bad, but let's not look at reading. Okay, I think we should look at maybe what we call the collateral mistakes at both ends. The first collateral mistake will be that we had over 20 years to plan this, and those who are supposed to have thought it through didn't. Two, we are still living, like my big brother says, in total and complete denial that the world has moved on. You're no longer talking about floods that happen because of torrential rainfall. You're talking about floods, that happen because torrential rainfalls happen because of climate change. Okay, so it's important you put that back element, because this is where this whole story will begin to take shape. Because if you appreciate and understand that even your networks, okay, can occasion some movements of your water movements, normal networks have been traced to cause tsunamis, cause hurricanes, cause movement in waters and weather and all that, then you begin to now tie this problem to where we should have started from. And each time I have the privilege and honor of coming to sit here, I keep telling you people STI. Because STI would have given us a proper program of containment. Again, when you talk about flood, remember that flood is like
what the STI means.
Science, technology, and innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, remember that
this is a money program, so that somebody doesn't start assuming that it's something transmitted infections.
Okay. So remember that flood is water, and like they say, what is power without control? So it is all about how do you contain this flood. My big brother architect Kabir has talked about people going into canalize their farms, and I want to ask him, what about these floods? I mean, do you know the amount of reptiles that these things is bringing along? That man puts his foot into that river and is eaten by a crocodile, okay, or eaten by an anaconda. In fact, there's one that have shown that snake is so long he could stretch, the full length of this. So it's a lot of danger. What about the poisons? What about the salines that are also coming with these floods? So I think what is important is that we first and foremost place this blame, okay, where we should. And it is the failure of our policy makers and policy implementers not to have thought this thing through. Before I now go to what we can be able to do right. Because in the first place, the meteorology people can say to you, we're going to have 1,000 millimeters of rain, 2,000 millimeters of rain, that in these areas ABC. And we are talking about rain-fed agriculture. We're basically saying nothing, sir. Because if you're talking about being able to contain that flood, if my statistics is right, at one time, China developed a technology that they started freezing their flood waters. Okay, they could contain it and freeze it because they started building containment systems. And these containment systems will have to do with how you are channeling this thing. We have a lake that has dried over 92%. Okay, that is within our territory. And a lot of programs, Dr. Danu, as director of dams, that's when I met him a long time ago, might be able to tell us if it was possible for us to also channel some of these floods that are coming to start trailing back into the Lake Chad that has all the space to be able to now contain them. Today, we have a lot of programs that are going. People are talking about food insecurity. People are talking about, we have a national disaster. We have a national disaster because in the first place, for northern Nigeria, what they do, a lot of these farmers save their foods in what they call rumbu or rambu. I don't know if I'm getting the word right. Now, those things are made of mud. And you can be certain that all of them are gone. So it's not even what you have on ground or what you have on the ground growing that's a challenge. Your storage is also gone. Remember also that our national strategic reserves, from the last count I had, I don't think anything is inside there. I don't think any of them is functioning fully. Okay, so why we are where we are today, gentlemen, and Nigerians listening to us, is because Nigeria has not recognized that, yes, rain-fed way of life is fine, but it's not going to be feeding 200 million people. What we need to do now is, first and foremost, what are we going to be doing to be able to convert this water called flood into water that can be put to use? And remember, it is not only farming you need water for. You also need this water for electricity generation. You need it for so many other things. So what I'm saying is, why are we not considering, okay, what you call a proper development program that is able to put us in a good stead, and we actually can start praying for these floods to begin to come? Oga has talked about torrential rainfalls. He's talked about flatlands. He's talked about us not, okay, look at Aba, for instance. Okay, Aba is flooding because of just somebody's refusal to open up the channels. And you're refusing to open these channels because a lot of big people, a lot of strong people have gone to buy land and built on these channels. And you don't have that political will to be able to take those things down. And water must find, his way. So what's happening is that while you're looking at this flooding as Lado Dam, torrential rainfalls, can we also look at the human infrastructure and human, contribution to it? 80% of the places that have flooded are flooded because you don't have proper drainages. Now, this is where we also now need to bring in our building, oversight capacities. So it's not just about rain falling from the sky. There are a lot of factors that we need to put into consideration here. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay, I think as we make progress in this conversation, we may have to clarify certain things that you mentioned here with respect to the possibility of deploying science, technology, and innovation in all of that. Now, let's return to Professor Adanu, who also I met for the first time as the Director of Dams at the Federal Ministry of Water Resources. Now, we have a number of dams in this country. Of course, I think you and I were involved when in 2014, Water Week in Sweden, in Stockholm, Sweden, where of course we were told that Sweden has over 2,000 dams. And these are people who are less than 12 million, people, So what has been happening to these dams that we have? Because of course the economic importance of dams cannot be overstated. And if you have rain, and to have dams, perhaps to contain them for a while, perhaps to release them gradually and what have you, that would have made sense. So why is it that many of our dams actually, in short, majority of our dams are dysfunctional?
Well, I don't know what you mean by dysfunctioning. Or whether they are not utilizing them, but the dams are not providing water. I don't know. But then, let me get, okay, let me just...
that's why I raised the point.
In 1995, we had a master plan. And in this master plan, there are categories of dams that should be constructed in Nigeria. Some for agricultural purpose, some for flood control, others for even hydropower development. We have that. Now, we intended to be following this strategically. Maybe hydropower, depending on the power we need, then agriculture, because these are very important sectors. We haven't followed that trend sufficiently. I remember in 1994, the the proposal was to construct about over 280 dams, I remember, medium, large, and small. Now, we still have to do that. As he mentioned, you can use a dam, one single dam, for several purposes. For agriculture, even to withhold water at a time you don't need it downstream. Release it when you need it so that flooding, when heavy rainfalls come, these dams can trap them. So the major streams or major rivers will be free of this flooding we're having. So we can use dams for this. We need to have a comprehensive commitment. The plans are already there. We have the dams. Let me draw your attention to the coat of arms, the Nigerian coat of arms. Look at it critically. Just look at it. The shield to protect the nation there is black because of the soil, fertile soil. And on it, you have flowers sprouting and all this. Then a pole, a Y-shaped pole, wavy Y-shaped pole. That is a river. Those two rivers, perfect drainage. Has Nigeria looked at the coat of arms as the major symbol of our development? We just have it there, we look at it. Nobody knows exactly what it means. Do we respect it as the major resource in Nigeria?
A philosophical foundation
foundation of the creation of this country. Nigeria was Niger area. A name given by a journalist, Shaw, who married Lugadle eventually. But prior to that time, the name was the region of territories of Niger area. Everything is built around River Niger. Have we really, philosophically, looked at Nigeria as an environment that can create its wealth from these two items?
So where is the challenge? Where does it lie? Is it in implementing the policy?
Yeah, I think it's implementing and looking at what we have there and seeing whether we can really rely on this. And
okay, well, Professor Adano, thank you very much. I've had the privilege of visiting some dams in some parts of the country, small, big, and medium. Some of the small dams, you look at them and you're wondering whether it is our gutters or just trapping running water or otherwise. Well, one of the LA achievements, or one of the achievements in the administration of Brigadier Ubemudi as military governor of the Midwest was the construction of Ojirami Dam in Edo North. It was very big, very famous and very popular. We had excursions to visit the dam, and you saw how the dam operated. But some of the latter ones that you started seeing in different parts of the country, like people were just running away from implementing what ordinarily should be implemented. Of course, we know what that means in broader terms. We'll come back to that, Professor Adano. We earlier indicated that we're going to be joined by another guest, also well familiar on Good Morning Nigeria. Is with us now via Zoom. Dr. Chris Akio is the convener of Integration Summit Group Nigeria and also President Emeritus of Ijaw Youth Council Worldwide. Dr. Akio, we're glad to have you on Good Morning Nigeria today. We want to take advantage of your knowledge of the Niger Delta area. The last time we had you, we were talking about crude oil theft, and of course you provided a great deal of insights into what we needed to do to stem crude oil theft. But we have also seen the impact of the waters, at least from some of the visuals that were posted online, Bayelsa, Delta, that's to say Delta State itself, Rivers, and parts of Imo and Anambra. What do we know at this time about what has happened with respect to the flooding of 2022?
Thank you. Good morning to you out there in the studio, and good morning, viewers. Okay, so it's an interesting conversation. It's all about the River Niger and River Benue, and perhaps government lax attitude to following the master plan has been talked about this morning on studio. What we have experienced in the last 40 days or more has been very devastating for the citizens, for the economy, and for the country. The River Niger, perhaps part of the Benue, have overflowed its bank, and all those volume of water have been dispersed into communities, large communities displacing over hundreds of thousands of people in the last 40 days, destroying homes, drinking water, electricity infrastructure, road infrastructure, food, and also putting life at risk. I'm from Patani. Patani is sitting right on one of the tributaries of the River Niger called the River Forcados, and that of course gets into the estuary to the Forcados terminal. What you're seeing right now on video is a typical example of what has happened in entire Bayelsa, and but 6 local governments in Bayelsa, 10 in Delta, parts of Imo, Anambra, and River State. People, livelihood is taken away from them. The East-West Road is completely washed up in major sections where there will be need for new infrastructure. And then the basic thing is that we as a country have not thought about climate change or not thought about being proactive over the years. This flood started basically in the last 10 years. 2012, we experienced something almost this magnitude, and then it went to sleep to 2017, came in 2017, in 2018, in 2019, 2020. We had a break last year, and then it came back with this energy. This is the highest we've experienced. I live in Patani. My investments, for instance, are all gone. Hospitals, businesses. And I even feel more sympathy for those who perhaps are living in mud houses. That's what they have. They will get back at the end of this flood. They can't find a home to go. Those of us who have fish farms, of course, is history. Those who have farms where they have done planting is history. And sadly, there is no blueprint or roadmap for insurance of all these things in our country that is sustainable. So it's a loss that is gone. No amount of palliative can make up for those people who are feeling this pain now. So what does the country lose? These common farmers are the ones who provide the basic necessity for day-to-day food in the country around, be they tomato farmers, rice farmers, or cassava farmers. All those crops are discussed. So there will be food shortage. It means therefore we'll pay more from pocket or from government will have to import food stuff. Now, sending grains, for instance, to the south will not solve the problem. The people of the south don't feed on grains. It may help in the north, you understand that? So there's an economic impact on that. Now, the infrastructure is also gone. Government will have to reinvest. Our take home from this will be that the design of the east-west road must change. What has happened is that they've used clay to do holding banks and fill with sand. Now, once the flood comes, it dissolves those clay and then the sand wash away. So they need to design it and cast those roads properly if it must survive the test of time. It means that's the way to go. Because in 2012, it got washed off. Now it's washed off again. And not only washing away, but it has also taken lives in those areas where people have drowned. And then electric infrastructure is gone. You also heard about the LNG where they had to shut down because they could not carry on with their gas. So I think the country must be more proactive. We hear about this dam in Cameroon that they always use to control their own flood, and then they release water and then it turns us into an ocean of some sort. And we hear there's been a dam in construction for God knows when, and we don't know why it's not been completed. I think we need multiple dams in the stretch of the River Niger and Benue, particularly those ones that can be used as gate control dams. And like the last speaker said, dams are not waste, they have economic value. They hold water, they control the flood, they can be used for electricity generation, they can be used for agriculture and all of that. So I think the Ministry of Water Resources, the federal government, the ecological fund, the Ministry of Environment must put a think tank together that must design a one-stop kind of dam that each dam can solve multiple purposes and then we have economic value for it. If we do not do this, we do not know, we cannot predict how often these floods will come. And I think that there's no other option than to find a way to do construct dams and then dredge the entirety of the River Niger and River Benue because they're already very shallow. There's a lot of silting in there. In my place, when I was younger, 30, 40 years down the line, you could take a dive like a cliff from the river back into the river. Today, you can trek kilometers on water because it's shallow, there's sandbanks everywhere, and the tributaries have been blocked. So when the water, the same volume that used to come 30 years down the line, comes now, they find a shallower bowl of the river. So the rest of it percolates into the communities and then the flood communities. And then once there's this additional heavy rainfall or dam release of water, everybody is underwater. You can't move communities. For instance, I don't know where you're going to move 10 local governments away from Delta or the entire Bayelsa state. I don't know which state will accommodate them as their own state now. So the choices are to find man-made interventions that can control water flow in the River Niger and River Benue, to deliberately dredge the River Niger and River Benue to its original depth for the purpose of not just dredging, but to allow also for movement of vessels. So that dredging.
Well, I think
it looks like, yeah, there's a freeze there on the Zoom connection.
Yes, because I wanted to really do a follow-up, on that. If he's back, let us know, please, if he's back. He's back. Dr. Akio, we've listened to you attentively, and I understand your explanation. But I want to add this. Do you think that the governors of the South are doing enough with respect to efforts towards mitigating the floods? Because of course, some 4 or 5 months ago, NIMET and other agencies did alert the nation on what is going to be expected this year with respect to flooding. So it's a known fact. Now, are they doing enough? You mentioned the Ecological Fund, you mentioned the Ministry of Environment and what have you. And at some point, some person said that, governors, a state cannot build a dam. But for me, that is wrong because, of course, if a state determines to build a dam, the state can. So are you now saying that the federal government must be part of this mitigation effort? What are the subnationals doing to mitigate that, especially the south area, which everybody knows the water area, so to speak, right? So of course you have said that growing up you are close to water, and patterning your area, of course, there is along the coastline. So what do you think the governors did not do, or what do you think they should do for now to help the people over there who are suffering from this flood?
Thank you very much. First, before you start asking if governors can build a dam, you need to also find out what rights do the government.
Looks like bandwidth. But Kirian, I think we'll keep your question for Dr. Akiyo to respond to once we're able to get back to him with a larger bandwidth. I think that's where the challenge is with him. Dr. Akiyo, if you can hear us, that's fine. We'll get back to you, and Kirian will repeat the question. I want to come back to Architect Kabir Ibrahim. Yes, we can apprehend the magnitude of the losses suffered by, say, farmers and other persons who have lost their homes, property, and so on and so forth. But I want to look at it essentially from the perspective of farmers. It is for purposes of occurrences like this that you have insurance. Where, for instance, will the agricultural risk or credit scheme, I don't know, I'm not quite sure what the full rendition is. Can Nigerian farmers, organized, unorganized, or otherwise, say, okay, we will fasten some of our hopes of recovery on insurance payouts for the losses that we have suffered?
Well, you see, there is work in progress between the farmers and NAIC. We made a proposal, I believe, I even went to NAIC to pay a visit, that we, beginning from the time that I was the president of Poultry Farmers Association, this is very high-risk business, poultry. Mm-hmm. I realized that just like in any other thing, Nigerians are not very keen on taking insurance. So I discussed with the farmers, broadly, and then suggested that we should have some form of fleet insurance across the board to begin with. That every farmer should come down with a premium, something that is affordable. Mm-hmm. On various crops, and that we would take this insurance from NAIC, and we don't wait until we want to borrow money. There is a precondition that when you want to borrow money from the bank, you do insurance. What about when you are not borrowing? So we should have insurance across the board. And then the insurance company will have a lot of money because we pay the premium in one clean sweep. And there will be a large sum of money set aside for insurance. So if, for instance, like Bielsa, we had Tuesday Night Live with the governor who said he was an IDP even at that time, I think 2 Tuesdays ago. The situation there is very pathetic. People have lost their livelihood and all that. So if there were insurance, for instance, these people would be compensated appropriately, and if there was a compendium of them and a lot of money attached to the insurance company. But with outside that, as he said also, that government cannot give sufficient palliative to take everybody out of poverty. The losses are colossal. The devastation is monumental. There is no way government can bring out monies that will adequately compensate these people and get them back into business. So it's a very difficult thing, but we have been advising farmers to run their agricultural businesses as a business, not as a chore that they have to do to feed themselves. But once you do it as a business, insurance is also fundamental in it. So let the word go forth to everybody now, to every farmer, that it is imperative that they take insurance to safeguard this kind of thing. And once this continues, it's affecting the whole world. When you talk of this in Nigeria and we are providing solutions and all that, we are forgetting that there are countries that are developed that have been using some of these things, and they have the devastation of flooding. These 2-3 years have brought a lot of havoc to the world. It's almost Armageddon in some places. Everybody is losing hope. There are many challenges, many shocks across Africa. I remember that this year I attended the Kikao conversation or discussions in Kenya, and we looked at the total African economy, agricultural economy. It is in shambles. People are crying all over. And you remember they did the RGF in Rwanda, and I was there. We saw it, even our former president Obasanjo was there, and so many ministers were there. So many of these things are not only peculiar to Nigeria, but insurance is very, very important, as you mentioned. People should take insurance, should insure their investments. Otherwise, they will not get adequate compensation. And there is no government in the world that can give sufficient palliative. And then, as the doctor said, if you give anybody in Bielsa's Ogun, for instance, what would they do with it? Maybe they will make beer. But certainly it's not going to help them. So if we are talking of the strategic reserve, and what we have in the strategic reserve are grains and probably gari, that will only be okay for. What about the perishable things? Where do you store them? Our power is not such that we can store these things. We cannot elongate the lifespan of some of the vegetables, and you cannot, if they give you rice without anything condiment to put to make it, will you just eat rice on its own? So we have to do more serious assessment of what is happening. And the whole thing is everybody's problem. I'm not going to start this blame game. You are blaming this, but we are all Nigerians. And we must make sure, especially because of politics, because we vote people into power.
Architect Kabiru, before we go on the short break, still on the insurance, I would like you to elaborate further. I didn't get the bottom of what you were saying in terms of work in progress with the Agricultural Insurance Corporation. What is it that we know at this time? Yes, the farmers will need to be enlightened, educated. Marketers from the insurance firms will need to also go to them, and so on and so forth. But what is the situation? Can those who are insured look up to the insurance firms to say, well, this will be some compensation?
Well, let me be very honest with you. NAEC is almost moribund. We are not encouraging patronage for NAEC, because if you look at the CBN and Koboroa, they are patronizing various mushroom insurance companies. That is why, in fact, if they are even complaining now that the repayments of the Ankoboroa loans are not forthcoming. And most of the farmers who borrowed from the CBN under the Anko borrower are claiming that they lost everything, even from 2021. You know, in Katsina, I have something that writing that the farmers lost 1.7 trillion in crops, and that came after they borrowed money on the Anko borrower program.
All right.
So you must be very careful. The NAEC thing, NAEC is the government formed insurance company that should cover agriculture. We should promote the patronage to that thing, that place.
Kabir Ibrahim,
yes,
thank you very much. He said that the claims came after they had borrowed money and have brought everything to flood, and who is going to pay back? Well, now, if we have a good insurance, right, then insurance could come in, the government could also come in, so that by the time they get from insurance, you need to have a good premium, and the government could also add up something in terms of compensation for those who have farms, not all those paper farmers that we have. All right, Dr. King, we were going to take you on some of the points that you raised earlier, but not right now. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with the conversation. Do stay with us. Some good morning, Nigeria, for this Wednesday.
We are all Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who's a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Critical military objectives of total defeats of the terrorists in the northeast is already been achieved. Synchronized group and air operations have continued to inflict huge casualties on the terrorists, and they have been forcing many of them, including their commanders and emirs, to surrender in droves with members of their families. Whilst areas where terrorists hitherto had some freedom of actions are being cleared, and socio-economic life is gradually returning to the most parts of the northeast, as while internal displaced persons are now returning to their ancestral homes to start life all over in dignity under a safe and more secure environment.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Every day in our country, senior citizens are discriminated against, disparaged, and treated with disdain by those who ought to respect them. We are all complicit in the way we have treated the elderly members of our society as institutions, families, or members of a shared society. Every time senior citizens get offered less than they deserve for the work they do because they are old, poor, and desperate, we are failing them. Senior citizen loses a child, and wow, they must be responsible for their death. Every time a senior citizen gets labeled a witch, is called mad, and shooed out of the way because they have no memory of where they were headed and look unkempt, we are failing them. We say, abeg, it all old, make it do die, make everybody for rest. To ailing parents, uncles and aunts. That's discrimination. That is neglect. When you see an old woman getting beat up and being accused of witchcraft, do not turn the other way. Stop and teach people that white hairs, wrinkles and hunchbacks are no evidence of witchcraft. Aging comes with a memory decline. Sometimes it's not out of place to have elderly people lose their way, forget details of their lives, and how to properly take care of themselves. When they get to this stage, they deserve your empathy, not scorn. Our ailing fathers, mothers, aunties, and uncles are deserving of quality healthcare and peaceful transition. Make their last moments memorable. Senior citizens have paid their dues. They deserve your care. Stop all forms of discrimination against them today.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Kieran, before we went on the short break, we were trying to prompt Meka Okengu for further clarification of what some of the propositions he made earlier.
Yes, because he introduced the STI, Science, Technology and Innovation there, and we want to find out how efficacious that could be if it is deployed, and what nature of technology are you preferring to assist in this the curbing of this menace, or in terms of mitigation and what have you?
Netherlands is practically under the water, so it's a very good example of a country that has functioned with STI, and as much in the water as they are, you rarely get to have the challenge of flooding in the Netherlands. They have been able to convert their water sources into a very innovative use. And as small as that country is, it's turned out to be one of the biggest producers of foods across the globe, everything. And it is all about technology. Very simple, sound, doable technologies. First and foremost, we'll come back to Prof. Prof talks about flatland, talks about silting, talks about channeling, talks about control, talks about containment. Now, these are not rocket science, Oga. These are very simple, everyday to do things. But you need to have a proper understanding of where this flow is coming from. Now, everybody seems to focus more on the Lado release. And I've said to you that so many other factors that you need to take into consideration. Town planning, for instance. The day we get our town planners to begin to look at how houses are built, where they are built, now what kind of control measures are also put, what kind of gullies you have. Take, for instance, our highways. I want you to take a drive down there. You'll be very shocked that a lot of our highways don't even have gullies, don't have gutters. Highways. And these are things that can be able to actually create a lot of, crisis for you. Take our habitations. Now, when NIMEC releases these figures to say people should move to highland or upland, what about the houses that are built that could also be a very major challenge to holding torrential or flash falls or water or whatever? So it's a whole gamut of us not understanding that this is not all about prayer. It is all about what we call PPAs. All right, you have government people say, oh, let us pray that the next year the rains won't be much. People are praying for rains. Because the more rains you have, the more productivity you have. And Papa just said, looked at it from a very philosophical, perspective. We'll have two major rivers that are supposed to be flowering the country. That's basically what Professor Adeno was trying to describe. And when I cast my mind and look at that thing, he actually begins to say to you that the control of those two rivers is the make or your man of your development. So in very simple language, where does meteorology predictions meet the housing design needs, meet our construction, meet our infrastructure? And then let's come down to farming. Who is a farmer? Yeah, my big brother, respected architect, he's an architect first and foremost, that's his profession. And if you see him in and out of his farm, you're not going to be seeing, architect Kabiru carrying a hoe and a shovel and a basket on his head and he's going to farm. I don't think that will happen. And even if we did, it will be a cultural photo shoot. I want to reckon that when you go into his poultry or his farm, you're going to be seeing a farm that has proper delineation, that has proper irrigation, that has proper channels, that has proper drips, that has proper equipment. Now, this is what a farm is supposed to be. So it's also important we disaggregate what we call gardens. For you guys who are in the press, you want to give you some colorations by saying no, it's not pedestrian. I'm looking for the word you use in the press now. I get it. Something that describes the person, as a pedestrian farmer. Okay. Subsistence. Now, and then you look at this subsistence farmer man. He grows maybe 1 or 2 acres of okra. You don't have that land captured in any system that you can monitor on real time. An institute like NIWR should be able to have a system that looks at it on a real-time basis to be able to say to you, this is where this flood is now. This is what damage is done, so that you can be able to advise the person. Now, but we don't have that. Meteorology might be able to go to Ministry of Agriculture and say, okay, please, let me see your situation room. What they're going to be showing you is what everybody is seeing on the screen. Okay, whereas they should be able to say, we have 300,000 farmlands, okay, hosting A, B, C, D, E. This is where ICT comes in. And I'm not talking about rocket science. We're not even going to be reinventing any wheel. You can actually use Google to be able to do this. It's all about using Google and using your maps to be able to now juxtapose those farmlands into things that you can be able to identify, okay, empirically and on the ground.
Okay, Dr. Emeka Okengu, thank you very much. We understand that Dr. Chris Ekiyo is back to us via Zoom. Dr. Chris Ekiyo, thank you once again. As you said, your bandwidth was pretty low for us to get in touch. At some point has just been made about town planning and the way we construct. And I want to, Chris, you're familiar with this. Benin City is one of Nigeria's best planned cities. Best planned. When the Portuguese first arrived in the 15th century, Gonzales, 1424, thereabout, one of the remarks he made was how well laid out that city was at the time, and still is. Now, growing up, this is now in terms of construction. On major streets, because Benin City is in the rainforest, the heavy amount of rainfall that used to fall, when houses are constructed, before you enter a house, you will climb several steps. Several steps before you get into a house. Now, with, of course, modernization, road construction, and the raising of the roads, some of those houses, you may just think that they are flat on the road. But beneath the road, there is also a master drainage system that Ogbemudia constructed in the 1960s. So, again, which raises the question that Kyria was talking about. Can we also begin to prompt our state government, other state governments, to look more into master drainages, particularly to deal with urban flooding, and of course river flooding? That was an issue relating to desiccation and damming. Dr. Chris Ekiyo, I mean, I've noticed this myself in the Delta. If a foundation is, sometimes some of those houses, particularly low-income houses, are just flat on the ground. Chris.
Okay, thank you very much. Quickly, first I want to key into what you started by asking what are the roles of the governors. The governors are on their own not going to be able to do anything in terms of what we are experiencing today. So there must be a collaboration between the federal government and state government as to new master plans in terms of housing design, in terms of drainage construction, in terms of dredging of the River Niger. And then, all the things we've been talking about is about commitment to processes and systems, which is lacking in governance structure today in Nigeria. Whether it is the design of the houses, if you bring those plans, the people who are supposed to supervise the implementation will get corrupt and then take bribe and then put it away. There are buildings now in Benin on the moat. It ought not to be so. There are buildings in drainage pathways in many modern cities in Nigeria. It ought not to be so. It is so because people get corrupt and then they allow themselves to be bought in. So also in terms of farm catchments and all of that, we used to have the extension workers that were posted to farmlands to guide and help farmers. These days, they employ such people, they keep them in the office to carry fires. So we must overhaul the system. What we're seeing now is an indication of systems failure or lackluster attitude by operators of system to enforce what hitherto exists. We had this town planning thing, physical planning thing, the Ministry of Agriculture is there. Most of these farmers and the insurance policy they were talking about is not sustainable. People get insured. They don't get to find the insurance company to pay them, because first, just any mushroom organization will be recognized by the approving authority as an insurance company. So unless we get thorough with doing what we need to do and become sincere with the appropriate insurance, for instance, the CBN or the Bank of Agriculture or industry, all those banks must work out with known industries, with insurance companies with capacity to take this kind of loss. No insurance company will be willing to pay anyway, because it's going to be colossal for them. How much will these low income earners insure? So yes, planning and designing is one thing, but the major thing will be first to have gate control dams, to open up the river Niger and Benue properly, which is the responsibility of the appropriate ministries of government to do that, and then to enforce certain fiscal planning laws in the country. That's the major thing to solving this problem. We must do that. If we do not do that, you can't continue to blame people. That's where they were born. They were born in our area, for instance. I grew up in Patani. Our parents, hundreds of years that lived there, it wasn't flooding. They settled there because it was the highest land they can find in the Niger Delta or the deltoic area. It wasn't flooding 50 years ago, 40 years ago. This is a new finding. So there's climate change involved. There is a neglect of the river pathways that government hitherto is supposed to happily maintain and help develop. Somebody talked about what's happening in other climate. Venice, for instance, Rotterdam experienced the flooding. They worked it out. In Florida, in all those areas, there are sometimes overflowing of the ocean. Those are systemic things. But we are having a pattern now where if nothing is done about those two major rivers, flooding will be perpetual. And then we roll out hundreds of millions in palliative. Those hundreds of millions could have been used to fix the problem, and citizens will be comfortable helping themselves. Citizens are not too interested in palliative. It doesn't solve the problem. It makes a mockery of the kind of help that they get. So I agree, we must look at issues from an economic state of it, in terms of National Council of State, in terms of the governors and the federal government sitting together and setting up a technical committee to come out with a long-lasting solution. Now, I'm not talking about the committee that will be there 3 months, 9 months in the Hilton, a fast operational committee that will be given a timeline. We have all these things in the archive. It's a matter of just piecing them together, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and then upgrading what was produced some time back to fit modern systems. For instance, adding the Google map on some of those things. And we must change our pattern. Some of the things we call farmland, yes, are subsistence farming, but that is what we have. We do not have known mechanized farmers anywhere in the country, because the anchor borrowers is also focused in giving people small money to open small backyard farms. There is no direct or deliberate effort by the government to grow farmers, to have one farmer that can feed the whole state. In some countries, one farmer produces enough for his state and even more. So we should move to that kind of farming where the insurance is big and then it's sustainable. What we have now are small farmers doing 1 acre, 2 acres, and all that is gone. Nobody's going to be able to pay insurance. They don't even have the tools to work, let alone to insure. So it is government, again, that must help its citizen. Government is omnibus, it's big, has capacity to borrow, has capacity to take the shock. So government must deliberately create a policy, but enforce it totally. Not these for political gains. You give some of your political party members some benefits, and they can then come and tell you flood has washed away the thing, so they won't pay back. That's not what we're talking about. We should qualify people.
Dr. Kio, thank you very much indeed. You have addressed some of the issues that we raised, but of course you've not spoken much about the responsibility of governors of the states that were devastated by this flood. They were informed about this about 5 months ago. What action did they take in terms of physical presence, in terms of trying to even build flood walls? What did they do? And when it comes to water resources, it's on the concurrent list. When you talk about agriculture, it's on the concurrent list. Do state governors know even the number of farmers operating in their states? What are the agricultural programs in their states? When this issue came up to say, look, there's going to be this flood, what did they do? So when we give a lot of challenges to the federal government, when the states are there, some state governments are building airports, which means they are buoyant enough to embark on such projects. Why can't they embark on projects to mitigate flood when they were duly informed? That is what we're talking about. Because if they did something, of course, a federal government will argument. But sitting on the bench and saying there should be a broader plan, the plan has always been there, like Professor Adamu pointed out. We've always had a plan. But who is executing this plan? What is the role of the subnationals in all of that? I hope we have time to talk about that more. But let me bring Professor Adamu once more to say, look, how can we deploy the construction of dams to handle this issue? Since we have dams that are functional, can they be reactivated?
Yeah, well, reactivation of dams, probably the silted one can be desilted. Now, the non-functional ones, for instance, maybe the gates are not working fine, those ones can be corrected. Now, desilting and also dredging of the rivers that we are talking, I'm going to put this together with dam operations. Now, if you dredge these two major rivers, when you dredge a river, you're increasing its capacity to convey more water at a time. In which case, the ambient flow that causes flooding because of the flatness is reduced upstream. Now that it's conveying more water, where are you discharging that water to? It is the Niger Delta. It's the Niger Delta now that we are complaining about seriously. Because the rivers don't have capacity to contain this, and they are bringing more water and discharging there. So what we can do is a total look at the system. One, when the dams are constructed upstream, those dams will now to do the ecosystem, because the brackish water, which is the interface between the seawater and this, has a system. Now, in the rainy season, these dams upstream that have been emptied in the dry season will now contain the water. They will now hold back these waters. So the rivers are still flowing just slightly above the normal dry flow, because the tributaries contributing water into them have been dammed and water has been stored. So in the dry season, you release again. Now, the release of water in the dry season can be used for navigation. If you do your dredging, you have enhanced the valley. So when you release this water in the dry season, a certain volume of water and height is attained, so you can do navigation all the way. So in the rainy season, when you're holding this water back, the rainfall plus ambient flow downstream will still increase the height of the river to that navigable level. You still be navigating. Meanwhile, you have already protected the inflow that should be coming from elsewhere by the dams. So we have to find out those dams that will be useful for this. While we dredge, we dam.
Finally, is there any way these floods can be directed to Lake Chad?
Well, that's a very big thing. That's reversal of flow. It's sometimes very difficult. But let me tell you one thing. If you direct the water that flows downstream, upstream, you are forgetting that the ecosystem of the downstream has normalized itself to the flow that comes annually. If you reverse it,
using STI,
not comprehensively, just take a bit of it like a pipeline.
I'm feeling
in the rainy season, for instance, when the water is too much, you can take up there. Let me tell you, there's a design, there's a proposal for Lake Chad, transferring to Lake Chad from
the Benue
Congo. Congo. That's the major one, which may not come out eventually, because it's a very, very difficult.
You know what, Professor Adano?
You can. Go
ahead very quickly.
Okay. There is also an interbasin water transfer that the ministry is proposing. This is the Hawa water transfer. It's from the Benue, a tributary of the Benue, actually, Congola. They want to take it through down to Maiduguri and then Howell and all the way down. But this amount of water required cannot fill Chad. It may not even reach Chad, because on the way there's an environment which is very, very permeable, called the Jerry Bowl. It can go in there, fill the environment completely with water.
It can saturate.
Saturate, and then
Professor Adano, this is a larger conversation we're going to have, because it's come up a couple of times now on Good Morning Nigeria. And I remember citing the example that in California, I had read sometime in the past that, look, through hydrological and mechanical engineering, they're able to pipe water to flow up mountains and then take them to the required locations.
You can do it anywhere.
Yeah, fantastic. So, as I said, it's a conversation we will return to, because the consequences of this year's floods will continue to linger. There are persons who are still in IDP camps, and I had also raised a couple of days ago whether they had social workers who were ministering to their needs. On that note, we'd like to thank Dr. Emeka Okengu, a development economist and also a farmer, for being our guest this morning. Architect Kabir Ibrahim, a member Board of Trustees of the National Agricultural Foundation of Nigeria. Always a delight having you on the program. Via Zoom, we're joined by Dr. Chris Akiyo, President Emeritus Ijaw Youth Council Worldwide and Convener Integration Summit Group in Nigeria. He joined us via Zoom. Chris, we appreciate your comments this morning. And last but not the least, Director General, National Water Resources Institute in Kaduna, Professor Emmanuel Adano. Glad having you on Good Morning Nigeria again today. So, that's it for us on the program for today. Thank you for being with us. Tomorrow is another day, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Kirian, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good day.
A week. You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet and phone. Log on to visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. You can also download the iOS or Android app on your mobile devices to watch NTA International on the go, anywhere in the world. NTA International, your window to the world.
Yeah.
Latest entrant, latest technology. Welcome to Intel 4G LTE Advanced and experience super fast internet access today. Visit intel.com.ng or any of our stores in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt to get started. Intel. Live more.
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Our elders say, worries hurt and make a person waste more than sickness does. Do you doubt that? Put in modern terms, worries would lead to a lot of things. Things that do not need to be in the body. And even the doctors have come to say that worries, high anxiety and so on can lead to things like headaches, heart conditions, just to mention but a few. And if worries, anxiety, were not properly treated, what next? They could lead to depression. They could lead to anxiety. And our elders from way back have already said these particular things that the doctors have come to know. And they have said, he who swims in worry drowns in sickness. You hear that? He who swims in worries drowns in sickness. But come on, am I saying that a lot of the things we worry about are not worth worrying about? No, That's not what I'm saying. Because all those things we worry about actually are very, very important things. We're talking about things like our health, maybe school fees, house rent, single people want to get married, the married ones, some of them want to leave their marriage, you name it. So you see, each person has a very, very legal ground to continue to worry about anything they've come to worry about. But there is a Hebrew proverb that says, anxiety breaks a man's backbone. Yes, it does. It makes the heart thick, makes you see things that do not even exist. And the Swedish people would tell you that. Worry gives a small thing a big shadow. And funny enough, I've come to realize something that Mark Twain said a very long time ago to be very correct, and I'll be quoting him right now. He said, I have had a lot of worries in my life, most of which never happened. So you think about it. A lot of the things that we worry about, our elders have come to say, may never actually happen. But we have pressure everywhere. And so sometimes we find very young people dropping down, just dying like that. Basically, some of those things are triggered by anxiety. Is it worth it? Is it worth dying over? For our elders have come to say again, it is he who frowns that carries a tired, heavy face about. It is true. It is the wisdom of our elders to advise us that we should take it easy. We worry about material things. We want to make it. We want to blow. But remember, when it does happen, you're not going to sleep in more than one small corner in that house or one small corner on your bed. So think about it. For our elders have said, we can never carry the world out of the world when we die. So, our thought for the week. Let's make it a challenge. Think about everything you've worried about. If you can remember all of them, maybe pick one or two. Write them down. And also write by it how those matters eventually got resolved. And then add, did the things you worry about those things actually happen? Think about it, my friend, because worry is like a war that is going on in the heart, in the mind. Now that we know that it kills, let us try. For our elders have said, the war a man has known something about cannot take the life of his child. Take care of yourselves, my friends. My name is Cordelia Obed. Bye-bye.
Hello, a lovely time again with the program Conversations, and I'm smiling, from chin to chin, because today we intend to put food on the table of a lot of people, especially those who've been struggling, to ensure that that food is on the table, and somehow, somewhere, it's not just showing, it's not just happening. What do I mean? A lot of us are doing business. A lot of us are starting business. Some of us too have actually been in that business for so long, and rather than going up, we're going down. And sometimes we think it's our village people. Is it village people? I don't think so. Sometimes we do not look inward. There could be something very small. It's not the amount of capital, but it's a financial capital, but it's the amount of know-how capital we put in that really makes it. Today we have people who are starting business, people who are already in business, but at the end of the day, all of us will be sharing our mistakes, and then pointing out where we were able to circumvent it towards navigating it to success if we are there. And then we also have people who are coaching one way or the other, who will be telling us how to ensure that we minimize our errors. Because if I tell you that the errors won't be there, that will be a complete lie. My name is Elizabeth. Looks like I've been talking too much. Let me stop. Let's do the introduction yourself.
Well, my name is Devan, and it's good to be here this morning. Well, startups, with all the wahala that come, I think I'm definitely somebody that has a lot to say about that, because I have failed at least twice, and I've learned my lesson the very hard way. So, and I'm very happy to share everything I've learned.
Your fail is in capital letter, even though you speak it. I see it written in capital. We would like to know this failure.
Yes, I will share
as we go. And by the way, this is a member of my winning team. I had to drag her here because I also know that you're an entrepreneur. But let's share who you are.
Hello and good morning. I'm so happy to be here today. This is my first time on air, so
it's always behind the camera.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to having this conversation as well as learning from you and whoever is going to join us later. So I'm excited for this.
All right, we have the CEO of Blue Camel. Is an energy company joining us much more later. He's actually on his way and he's quite apologetic. Suleiman Yusuf, he will join us shortly. But then, talking about mistakes, a lot of people have made so much. And Dairo, your team, Ada, Uzo, Faith, everybody, they went out to the streets to find out what mistakes people are making, and if possible, have they been able to learn from it. Let's share that with you, then we talk.
People don't really take into cognizance research. They don't do much research into that area of business that they venture into. And when you don't do research, you don't know the pros and the cons of the business or you're venturing into. And for sure you are heading for a crash. Lack of sincerity. You brought a fake item or a fake commodity, you pretend that it is a good one, you sell to him, and later on you discovered.
He later found out that most of them that he give it out, they will sell and bring the money, then he give them the goods again. But later he found out that some of them, after selling, they will go with the money, they will relocate, you will not see them again. And this business is not a large business, it's a small scale business. In that area, the business can be crumbled.
Every business requires a proper planning. So when they throw in per se is errors, it's full of error and all of those. So I think that these are one of the factors that will fall down, that will bring down a business.
Small business owners are not patient enough to allow the business to mature. I think that's one of the critical mistakes. And at the other hand again, some of the things they also do that crumble the business is not discipline, by knowing that this is a business fund. No matter what, I can't go beyond this limit. They keep picking from the business, small, and before you know it, the capital will just go.
One of the mistakes young people do while doing business is that you need to spend within your means. You understand? You don't spend the money you don't make.
You are selling to make a profit, to make your day. Other people are doing their business to make their day and then to make their life so easy. And you are deciding to sell for your friends and you choose the money. You are killing yourself or you are killing the business.
Investing so much money, I think for startups, you should just go as it comes. I think that's the first thing that you should do. And then as it grows, you can increase your capacity.
Selling things because of tomorrow, maybe you want the person to come back again. So you sell it at a low price so that the person can come back
It's good to get to hear a lot of people, speak on the issue of the day. basically it's fun to know that people make their mistakes, and at the end of the day, they learn from it. We in the house, we've all made our mistakes, and we will navigate around and get to find out how we were able to step out of it. I want to start with Devon, because even behind camera, she has always laughed at herself.
Yes, well, you must develop a sense of humor about these things, because the other option is to go into depression, start crying, and all of these things, and they don't solve anything.
Go ahead. So what are the mistakes you've made? By the way, I see Mr. Suleiman just coming in. Please walk into the studio. I see you're coming in. Different programs for you at the end of each day. Please take it on. And then you're going to have to share your experiences. You're going to sit near my lovely sister here. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
How was the journey coming to NTA?
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
I usually don't like to introduce people, so I want you to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. So my name is Suleiman Yusuf. I'm the founder and chief executive officer of a renewable energy company called Blue Camel Energy, which has been in operation for the past 14 years in Nigeria.
Okay, I will speak on that because I knew when it was a baby product. Now I see how far it's gone, but I'll let you settle down while she shares some of the experiences she's made with us. So you were saying something?
Yeah, so specifically, what do you want?
I want to know the mistakes you've made.
Okay. The biggest mistake I've made twice was not knowing enough about the business I had started. The first one, you want to start a side hustle because you've discovered that your take home is not taking you home, not because you're living
at instead of Maraba.
Exactly. And not because you're living an extraordinarily extravagant life, but because of the responsibilities you have to other people. Nigerians, we tend to owe a huge debt to extended family.
Yeah.
And then apart from that, you want to do your bit for philanthropy. A close friend tells you that their child is gravely ill. After a while, you realize that no, your salary isn't going to do this. So you want to start a side hustle. And there's always that fantasy of, okay, one day I'll leave salaried employment, face my own thing and build it up. So the sooner I get it started, the better. Now, the first thing I ventured into, and that one wasn't meant to be a permanent side hustle, just something to have a little extra change at the weekends and so on. This keke napep thing, did it twice. It was a disaster. I quickly came to discover that the vehicles don't last long. I came to the second time around, within the first month, one got stolen. Yes. Oh. And all of this kind of thing. So the keke napep thing did not pay my government, let me say. Because for one thing, I decided to run it myself, manage the operations and everything myself, instead of outsourcing it. Now, what people ordinarily do is you buy the keke napep, hand it over to the people. There's a whole cartel that handle these things. And all they do is remit something to you weekly based on agreement. That way, whatever happens to the vehicle, the driver, this, that, and the other, it's none of your business. They take all of that stress off you and just keep remitting money to you as and when due. I didn't opt for that. I decided to run it myself. The young men that were driving the things gave me the run around, made me look like a fool and everything because they knew more about the business than I did. So there was that. Then second time around, I decided, okay, let me go digital. Let me do something. And it was a bit different. It was, I'd call it a photo contest. And it started out very promising. But then this was a photo contest that was meant for young girls. Put up your fine pictures in Western attire, traditional, something casual.
Yeah, I remember. I was actually thinking about joining. You said I was too young.
No. It was open to women of all ages. It was open to women of all ages. But after a while, we noticed that we're attracting mostly undergraduates and young women up to the age of 30. But that was not the original plan. Mocha Beauty.
Mocha Beauty,
exactly.
Yes, I remember.
Well, we now found that Nigerians can be extremely ingenious in all the wrong ways. I'm sorry, but this was the experience I had. Within a very short while, we came to the realization that in many instances, young men were maybe borrowing their sisters' pictures and, putting these up. And there would be
contests for women.
Yes.
Men were not competing.
It's girls' pictures we were getting. With their
Meanwhile,
names and
behind the
details
camera
and
is a
everything. But usually it was an IT person behind the scenes trying to crash the site and do all kinds of things behind the scenes. I developed a terrible reputation. I got people calling me up to call me names, insult me, and tell me how I have the whole thing rigged. And I patiently asked this person, why would I rig a contest to give a girl 200,000 naira when I can just call her up on the phone? If I have too much money, just call her up on the phone and send the money to her. Why would I go through and first of all, the contest was free. So why am I doing a free contest to rig it in favor of somebody that I've already planned to give money to? Why don't I just call the girl up and give her the money? So after a while, I said, okay, there's so much suspicion around why it is free. I was receiving insults for it being free. People would call me up and insult me. What do you want to do with people's emails? What do you want to do with these young girls' pictures? There's probably something fetchy. I said, okay, fine. It's not like I don't like money. By the third round, we decided to monetize it. Some good money came in. But when we introduced the monetary elements into it, that was when things really went gaga. I mean, it was hellish. And Nigerians oh Lord, the dishonesty was, we spent more time trying to backstop fraud than actually focusing on the contest itself. It was hellish, that too. So that's the bottom line. What I learned is this: don't go into a sector you are not very, very conversant with. Don't start anything you are not highly skilled at. And I lost good money both times. So this time around, I'm doing something in my field. I'm achieving much better results. The day any of my staff don't show up, hey, what is it? Is it camera? I'm proficient at camera. Is it editing? Oh Lord, give me 2 hours and I'll be done with that editing. So I'm not experiencing any embarrassment anywhere. I'm giving clients their jobs and everything is okay.
Okay, it tells me a whole lot about the role of apprenticeship in everything we do. Back in the day, the Igbo boy will go to serve his master for 7 years and he's freed. And the freedom comes with maturity on his part. It comes with a lot of knowledge, of what to sell, what to do and what not to do. But very importantly, it comes also with a vested knowledge of politics of the business you're doing. All right, thank you. I want to go to Funke and a young starter. And a very aggressive one. What happened to our keke business, the delivery stuff?
I would rather not talk about that right now. I'm still trying to.
It's hot, right?
Yes, I don't want to talk about that. But for mistakes that I've made in businesses, because I've started a lot of business, and it's crazy. So the one I want to talk about in particular is having to please people when you are running a business, because you have friends, you have family members that you want to, you don't want to offend them. You don't want them to feel bad or feel some kind of way when you're doing business with them. So you try to compromise, you reduce your prices so they patronize you. I just feel like you don't need to please anybody when you are doing business. As long as you know you are offering the right service and product at the right price. You don't need family members. Don't patronize them or think that if they don't patronize your business is not going to go well. There are lots of people out there that patronize people that are not even their family members. Businesses move on and move smoothly without all of that. So just focus on rendering the right service or business at a good price, and just do that. You don't need to make people feel
so I know that your laundry business is thriving, because I see a lot of people who are actually patronizing you. What are you doing differently?
Okay, so for now, I think I'm paying more attention to supervision. I don't do the laundry myself. I just collect the clothes from the customers and then give it to the laundry guys that do it. But I realize that most times I don't supervise what they do. I assume that they should know what to do because that's their field. And then it has gotten me into a lot of trouble. They mess up some clothes, they just package it nicely and just give it to me. And after a while, I realized I could actually just, even if I don't do the job myself, I can supervise everything that they do, go through all the process without doing the job by myself, and I still get the good results that I want. So since I started supervising what they've been doing for me, the jobs that they've been giving me, it's gotten better. I get better results.
All right. Okay, I'm sure Yusuf Suleiman, you have actually rested a bit from the hassle of getting to this place. I know that you actually missed your way, as you come around.
That's right.
Okay. For 14 years, you've been running Blue Camel, right? And I know when I first met you, to actually get to talk to you was a tug of war, because you were scratching your brain to make sure that this thing moved. But then you have always been a cool character, relaxed, even with all the stress. I want to know what made you go into this business, because when you went in, it was known, but it wasn't pretty known. But you decided this is where you're going to, and you never gave up. What was the challenge, or challenges, and how did you wind your fingers around it?
Well, three different things actually, came together to, not just generate my interest in the business, but also, to ensure that I get it started. Number one, like, she just mentioned, we are Africans, and particularly Nigerians. So we don't live by the burden of individual and your family alone. You carry the burden of friends, you carry the burden of family, extended family members, and even neighbors. So I was a civil servant, but I knew very clearly that my take-home pay definitely won't take me home.
How far did it take you? 20% of a journey?
I also, I have a flair. I love to live good, and I just knew that this job wouldn't give me that good life. So I needed something that I would probably engage my energy. I was still very energetic then. It was quite interesting job then. It just wasn't sufficiently, engaging. It was hours of redundancy. A typical civil service job. And before you know, you're counting down and looking forward to the end of the month. That just wasn't it for me. But that aside, passion is one thing that is very key in everything we do.
Passion.
Any business you do that you're passionate about, you will never fail in that business, because even when you lose or you fail, you still keep doing it because you're happy doing it. It's not just about the money that was going from. So I've always been technically inclined. I did physics, and I passed physics very well, but I didn't have the opportunity of studying engineering in the university, just because I knew that I had to wait one more year, and engineering was a 5-year course. So I looked at it 6 years from now before I start doing things, and then I could just take any course and do my 4 years. So I took what I could lay my hands on and did 4 years in university, but that was in engineering. But I've always had that engineering flair. So at the point in time, of course, everybody knows the energy challenge in Nigeria. We've seen the good and bad side of it. As a kid in Lagos, where I was born, if the electricity is going to go off for an hour, they're going to announce it and let everybody know that we don't have 1 hour. Yes, but we've seen that part of it. So now with what we're seeing, we know that there is a problem. And behind every problem, there are opportunities. So I did my first inverter from a client, whom I paid for 3 different inverters, mine, my mom's own, and my brother's own. I had a child, I think my child was a year plus then. So we needed light in the house, electricity all the time. I was dealing with managing 3 different generators. One is for when I have a guest and I need to turn on the AC. Another one is for running steadily, especially when we need to make sure that the things in the refrigerator doesn't get spoiled. And the third one is the one that I put half a gallon, of fuel in it, and then just go to sleep. If they bring light or they don't bring light, that's it. So we're living in that kind of very difficult environment. So I discovered that there were solutions of power backup, and I patronized, somebody who was doing the business. But because I am technically inclined, when they came to install, I observed every step of it, so I knew that there wasn't any thing difficult to.
You stole their idea.
Yes, of course, but not.
But not in a bad way. Not in a bad way.
But let me also tell you the interesting part.
Okay.
I discovered a lot of things I did wrongly.
Okay.
For example, if you're installing an inverter in the house, provide a fresh cable for your inverter. Don't destroy the earth cable and make it your inverter because you're trying to save money. That earthing cable is to prevent electric shock and equipment damage.
Oh yeah.
But I saw that they weren't doing the right thing. But that wasn't the end of it. My own system broke down less than 3 months afterwards. I had discarded my generators, dashed them out. I was already enjoying that uninterrupted power.
But how are you powering the batteries for the inverter?
Electricity comes in for a few hours, so you charge the battery, and then when electricity is gone, you leave on the battery.
Okay.
Right? So, when it broke down, I started going for redress. Every day I went there, they just kept posting me. But that was the opportunity, because I had time to, while I'm waiting for the organ, I'm interacting with his boys. This business, where do you get this? How do you do this? And I learned a lot about the business. So at the point, I had to actually use enforcement to get my system replaced. But then each time I went there, I saw how people were coming to bring money for this service that is not so cool. So I saw the opportunity there. And I started running the business from the boot of my car.
From the boot?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
If I might ask you a question. Yeah. You went straight into the conversation assuming that everybody knows what an inverter is.
Exactly.
There might be people who are hearing this term for the first time.
Sure.
What is an inverter?
Well, an inverter is a device, that works with the battery that helps you to store electricity from the grid or from generator or from solar, and reuse it when any of these sources are no longer available. That's just simply what an inverter.
So it is like a super UPS for the household.
Exactly, for the household.
So that when NEPA do their stuff, this
right.
kicks in and you don't have to deal with the whole noise of generator, buying fuel and diesel and all of that.
It switches on its own, right?
Yes,
Okay.
smart switching, so you don't lose time. So if you're watching a program or a football or something, even your DSTV doesn't restart. It just switches.
No, DSTV is starting there. It's forever. So
that opportunity came, and then I talked to one or two family and friends, and I was lucky I had somebody who made 5 million naira available to me.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, that was my startup capital. So I discovered that money wasn't enough to rent, a shop and then start the business. So I moved my wife's small business from her shop where she was selling cosmetics, and I asked her to take this business to the house and run it from there.
I hope you paid for the relocation allowance.
I paid compensation. I'm still paying. So that's how we started, and that's still our head office today, as small as the place is.
Oh wow.
But believe me, in the past 12 years,
14
years, that 5 million has I don't know, but I will just simply tell you that the net worth of Blue Camel is over 5 billion naira today.
Oh, that's good.
Wow, 5 billion. That's good. Moving
That's
from
good.
5 million to 5 billion.
5 billion.
And
So
in
it was
40
a
years.
combination of the need, that's number one. Knowing that the job you have cannot, meet up to your lifestyle, Secondly, the bad treatment and the opportunity that made itself available. I discovered that I could run this business better, if I add a bit of, courtesy, a bit of treating people right and doing things, properly as well. And we excelled with just one thing, customer service at the back of the
I was coming to that. I actually have had my experience with your office, and even though I didn't get to finish up the business, I felt like actually borrowing one or two of your staff that dealt with me to every place I worked with, because they had this way of talking to you that I like, contrary to a lot of other things that happen in business. In fact, yesterday I was at the airport and I was raking, at the airline. I said, I need this girl sacked. I need this girl sacked. Just for a simple thing she did. We all queued up to get something done, and she was absent for over 25 minutes. She didn't tell her people where she was going to. People were looking for her. And then from nowhere, she just came out on a phone, number one. I was walking, catwalking, I didn't know she was the person, but I saw I don't want to call the airline because it's not their fault. I saw the dress, the uniform, yes. So I knew it was her. Then her colleagues, every eye went to her side. So I knew she was the one. She walked in and just sat down, dropped that phone. I said, excuse me. She said, Sherry, you want to pay for excess luggage, blah, blah. I said, is that all I'm getting from you? She said, what do you want now? Is it not what you pay? I said, I need an apology. She said, for what? I said, I've been standing here with all these people all queued up for over 25 minutes. Madam, it's no longer I left here. I said, are you mad? The other persons now shouted at her from, I think, the United Nigeria Airline besides them. They shouted at her. So they now, she now said, are we all not human beings? Can't you move out for a while? You didn't tell your colleagues, and we're not even bothered about that. You came back, there was no sorrow for keeping you. I was mad. I was shouting. I said, please, I want this girl sacked. And I hope they will remember this story because it just happened yesterday. And they will know that the person I'm talking about yesterday evening, look out for that person. She needs to be reorientated. A lot of times, it's what we call in Nigeria Ember Month. Yeah. And small businesses hoping to make more money. Some will tell you they are doing promo. Now, if you're smart and you check the cost of their product in October, September, August, thereabouts, it's probably going for about 1,000 naira. By the time they tell you they are doing 50% sales, go and check what they are saying. It's now 1,002. And you're wondering, where is the 50% sales? But because they've put sales on it, so you think it's a reduced cost.
Yeah.
So the one I attacked last week now told me, that time you checked it, dollar was so and so amount. Now dollar has gone up.
But it's a good argument.
Remove these sales now.
No, but it's a good argument considering how astronomically the dollar is going up now. But that is not.
It has always been like this.
That is not in prejudice of the fact that there's a whole lot of scamming that goes on in the name of sales. But I do have a question to ask you. We're focused on things that go wrong when you want to start your business.
Yeah.
We've had unpleasant experiences. Did you have any unpleasant experience starting this? What challenges did you face?
Quite a lot of different challenges and different phases. But, the beauty is when you're the founder of a business, the idea is you've thought out all the challenges even before you start thinking about what you're going to make out of the business. Our biggest challenge in Nigeria remains human capital.
Yes.
Human capital. That's the reason why up till now, if you're building a house, if you're constructing, despite the level of unemployment in Nigeria, we still engage the Ghanaians, the Togolese, to do jobs that needs finance, that needs attention. Tiling, POP. It's not like we don't have Nigerians that can do it. But the Nigerians that we have that can do it do not have the discipline. And what is this discipline? A typical Nigerian artisan, when you pay him money for material, you probably look for him 2-3 days, his phone is shut down. Until that money is finished, if you're lucky, he picks your call, he comes back to see what he can redeem. And there are sets of stories. Same story, I lost my mother, I went for this, or my grandfather's, but one thing will always come up after he has collected the money. So that discipline is not there on one side. If you bring the Togolese, for example, to your site to work, they move into site, they stay on site. Everything they do is focused on getting that job done and getting referrals from a good job. Our own case is not the same. The very few Nigerians who get very good, training from Julius Berger and so on, Jet Ceramic and whatever, engage them and see what their delivery is. So that small discipline of being in the primary school or secondary school class, of knowing that you have to be in school at so time, of knowing that if you don't do this right, this is the consequences, of learning courtesy and all that, is what is lacking in our artisans. And that's why one of the things I did after, we got to a comfortable ground was to set up a training academy. So we have a renewable energy training academy right now where I've trained over 360 young Nigerians on renewable energy technology, mostly on scholarships. Because I discovered that unemployment is high, not because people don't want to work, but people don't have the opportunity to learn the skills and discipline that is required for them to be employable. And
okay, I wanted to know, when we run our businesses, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, we always need money for one thing or the other. What is that particular way or thing you put in checks to ensure that you don't overuse? As a CEO, you get paid and you manage whatever your payment is. How do you put that discipline? Because it's a big difficulty.
Most times when we own business, we think that our business account and our personal account is the same. These are two different things. A business is a business. When it's time for you to reward yourself, you need to first of all ascertain what have you earned as a business and who are the parties involved in earning this thing. And what is the best proportion of sharing this to ensure that everybody continues to put in their best? I'll come to something called the 13 P's, of entrepreneurship. Percentage, yes, 13 P's. So percentage is very, very key. That is the proportion of your business proceeds that you share amongst every party, including your driver. If your driver is not satisfied with what he's getting, he's probably going to look for another job, and that's going to slow your business down. So everybody who puts in something needs to get a fair share that gets his interest on the job. So that problem is always there. The problem of managing resources, and a lot of times we've already been enshrined with this get rich quick syndrome as young Nigerians, because we've seen a number of people get rich quick. We've seen people from villages who just find themselves in the city, in the National Assembly, and before you know, they're multimillionaires. So that idea that we can get rich quick is already there. We've seen people who just come into Abuja, before you know, in 2-3 years, they're contractors, they're handling massive projects. It's not consistent. It's not going to continue. So we must hit that sense that we must work hard, we must plan. I was talking to some young Nigerians at the Niger Delta Youth Forum the last time, and I asked the question, how many of you young Nigerians, have thought of owning a tractor as your first vehicle?
That's why we own the Ferrari first.
Exactly. Everybody knows all the different cars and their prices. Nobody bothers or nobody knows the price of a tractor.
True.
If you own a tractor as a young Nigerian graduate today, irrespective of where you choose to start your business, you are a guaranteed multi-millionaire in the next 10 years.
If I may quickly come in, some things that I remembered before I forget. You see, for those of us who started out life by earning a salary, I think we're the demography that is most likely to make the worst set of mistakes when we try to enter the business sector, entrepreneurship. Now, let me quickly give these few pieces of advice amongst the lessons that I've learned. Don't start your business with a business name. Go to CAC, go and register one company. That should come when the business has already started establishing itself, something has started coming in. Because when you first start business, you make a lot of losses. Because you are learning as you go. No matter how much you know, every day something comes up that you never envisaged. Sometimes it could even be government policy that has changed and is affecting you, and so on and so forth, that you never anticipated. Now, when you start your business by registering a business name first, regardless of whether you are making money or not, you are going to pay IRS their tax. So they don't care if you just registered the name and you kept it pending the day you are going to start the business. It has been dormant for the past 15 years. They are not interested. You are going to pay tax for all those 15 years that you say you are not doing anything. They are not interested. You will pay. So don't start your business by you don't run. Go CAC business. Start the business first. If it is doing well, go and register it. That is number one. Number two, don't start your business by renting space. Except it is critical.
The boot of his car.
Except it is critical for you to have space. It's not the kind of business you can run from home. Because rent, when you start business, you want to cut down on overheads as much as possible. Overheads are anything that expenses. Cut down your expenses to the barest minimum. Anything that you can get people to help contribute, like their time, skill, knowledge. If your husband is knowledgeable in accounting something, let him help you with the bookkeeping. If your daughter is very good at typing something, let her help you to type letters and so on and so forth. Keep the staff you are going to hire to the barest minimum when you are starting. If you thought, after you've done your feasibility study, and that's another thing, many of us don't do feasibility before starting business. But let's assume you do your feasibility study and you discover that you're going to need 1.5 million to start this business. It is in your best interest to keep 5 million aside. Because by the time everything is taken care of, incidentals that you've never thought about begin to come up. So at all times, prepare yourself with at least 3 times the amount you thought you needed. That's point number 3. Point number 4. Don't start your business by hiring relatives.
No, it doesn't work.
Asking them to help you with one or two things is different. Bringing them on board as employees is something completely different. The chances of you waking up to tell your husband, sweetheart, I'm sorry, well, I have to sack you. I don't even know how that conversation is going to start.
Sack your husband.
You understand?
From the
sack.
From the office of
or your mom that is your manager, your momager, so to speak. Mommy, the thing is, these your ideas, they are not. I was thinking of bringing a fresh. The woman will feel insulted, and then you're going to generate one friction like that should not exist. If a stranger steals money from your business, you can bring police in. If your son steals money from your business, can you bring police? You can't. However, I'm not saying that there are businesses that are family businesses. One of my landlords, him, his wife, all his children, they're into the events management thing. I don't know how they've been doing it for 20-something years. They're fantastic. There's this sense of discipline. I don't know how they're managing it. They hardly ever have any issues. It's a family business. But when it's a regular business where you've employed strangers as well, one stranger is the director of finance, another stranger is director admin, then your wife is director media. Issue go deal. So you need to be careful about those things. So these are some things that came into my mind that I said, let me quickly share before I forget.
Okay. I quickly want to add this. This is an aspect that we've not talked about. Online vendors, people that sell online. A lot of people sell online nowadays. And there's this thing I have a problem with. Deceit. What I ordered versus what I got.
Yeah.
Most times we order stuff online because you can't go into the market by yourself to check and find out these products for yourself. And then you contact somebody online. You want to buy this product. You send me a picture or a video of the product and then I order it. You deliver it to me. It's something totally different. For me, I have cancelled out buying stuff online. As much as I want to patronize your small business as a friend or a random person online, I have cancelled that out because I always get disappointed. I always get the bad or the wrong product. And I think it's something we should really, I don't know how we're going to control that right now, especially with everybody using the internet and social media to sell products. But I think it's an aspect that a lot of people that we should talk about. And then the idea of you are selling stuff online and then you don't put the prices. I think it's deceitful because you come to me and tell me it's 500. You go into some other person's DM and tell the person it's 1,000. You just give everybody random prices.
Yes.
I don't think it's cool at all. Just put your prices there.
Pricing is another very big challenge when it comes to, for young businesses.
Yeah.
For instance, now I just did a job for my husband's firm. He has been asking me for days to send in my invoice. I don't know if I should be nice. I don't know if I should give the regular price.
Can I give the invoice for you?
So that's going on. Coming to what she said at first about trying to be nice for family members.
Yeah.
I'm really struggling with that now.
One of the major problems with startups, we tend to quickly upgrade our lifestyle when our business is not yet started.
Oh wow!
That's sad.
So you can change status immediately, and
then the
drive at a
business
certain
suffers.
speed. But you can choose to be calm. You know where you're going. You have a business plan, and you are ready to play. I'll give you an example. If you invest $1 million today, and you're supposed to make 100% turnover in a year, by next year you're going to be investing, 200 million, and the year after it's going to be 400. But if you spend, that out of that 100 million, you choose to spend 80 million on lifestyle. It means that the year after a business will be 400,000 because
new wife.
Because the year after you have only 20% to invest. So that's how it goes. So you need to wait until you draw the curve, until you get to that comfortable point where you can now choose to start living your lifestyle. Your business is not affected. That's when you settle down to enjoy your life. So that's one thing that most of our startups, the next thing he changes, the environment he's living, the car he's driving. Just lay low and make sure your business is solid before you change your lifestyle. I see that as a problem with most of our
It's actually a big problem. Everybody is in a hurry. And again, it comes from what you mentioned a little bit earlier, passion. If you're starting a business because you have a passion for it, not because you want to change your lifestyle, that one will come. you always want to conquer more grounds rather than exhibit what you have acquired. People are talking with us. Let's see if we can quickly share some of your views. I am Thomas Thomas Inibunu from Delta State. I really think and suggest before investing or involving yourself into any business, one has to specifically study the business, just as you said. Take ideas from people who have actually gone far and are successful in that business. True. And remember that my colleague here just said something. Remember, as a reliable monotheist, that a business name must be related to peace and harmony, okay, and that you have no good recognition calling your name or business name something horrible for dependable. Okay, that's when Yusuf Gaffa is telling you that you should be mindful about the name you choose, because for those who may not understand, they may begin to think ordinarily. And from says a COU, there's a saying that once cheated, twice shy. How can Nigerians have confidence when they always debunk truths on grounds like this one that dealt with life and death? Okay, so I mentioned it is not very clear, and I think you should reduce the abbreviation as you write so that it's easy for me to interpret. Somebody says here, I'm inspired by this program. God bless you. My name is Prince Chigozie Nande from Lafia. Thank you very much, Prince Chigozie. Every business should have a foundation. Let our business be built on Christ. For the beginner, avoid the 3 vices: alcohol, tobacco, and womanizing. That's for men, right? Then be praying to God always. Okay, somebody is responding. Say that's a reverend selling this this product. What makes business goes up with all the hardship about on and off? Okay,
and entrepreneurship is a problem. The policy on importation of goods and the processes that you have to go through is a problem. Policy of taxation, unnecessary taxation, and even double taxation on small businesses is a problem. So all these problems, I believe, are policy issues that need to be addressed. Even policy on importation. You're trying to promote local companies, and yet you leave your borders open, called globalization, and you allow products from other countries where they get, money at 0%, 2% interest rate. You're allowing them to produce solar street lights.
Oh, solar street lights. Okay.
We produce those street lights not because it is cheaper to produce. It's cheaper for me to import ready-made products from China. But I'm producing because I want to engage more people. I want to create, a sense of, belonging amongst our teeming youth who doesn't have things to do. Now, the Chinese company gets its money at, say, 2% or 2.5% interest rate. We're dealing with 20-25% interest rate in Nigeria. So already we are not competitive. Secondly, you have a brand name, a company, that is structured. So FRS is always there on your neck. Your 7.5% VAT and so many other taxes. You can't escape it. The Chinese company comes in, registers the company in Nigeria as a startup, which means for the first 3 years they may not be entitled to pay taxes. Uses that company to do his business. He's able to sell 7.5% cheaper than I, because he's not eligible or he doesn't pay taxes. So he has that second advantage. And thirdly, because it does in volume and we don't have access to capital to finance to do that kind of volume, he's able to navigate his way around customs and clear his product even at a cheaper rate. He also doesn't go through the proper clearing procedure because I'm a registered company that can't hide. He probably comes in and, gives some tips, find his way around, and he clears his product cheaper. So when policies don't guide or protect their own internal, startups and companies, then it's a big crisis, But in any case, one thing I've discovered, you see, we're in an environment, and we have to be very straight about this, where a lot of people have monies that they have not worked for in their pockets. That's the truth. A lot of people have monies that they have not really worked for. They've gotten the money, they've not earned it. And the spending, style and pattern of that kind of society is always different from societies where people have to earn every bit of their money. Go to the UK and see how people live their lives. They're very, very disciplined with every kobo they spend. Here, you know, people who earn this money, most of them don't even pay taxes because the money is incoming in channels where, you know,
it can be taxed.
It can be taxed. So what do people in that kind of environment do? They spend on their lifestyle. So as a businessman, I've studied this and I just decided that, okay, the best thing for me to do is to track these people irrespective of how they make their money. Let me just collect my own small one from them. So I look around the services, the things that they need and they're willing to pay for. So I set up my small toll gate. If you come to pass, just drop something and go. I'm happy. I'll make you happy. I'll give you the service you need. I don't want to know how you made your money. So in that case, no matter how the economy navigates, good or bad, people are still spending. Just collect what you can collect. And
the more you
yourself
can.
happy.
All right.
That's it.
Let's see. More are coming in. I'm Dr. Salihu Ibrahim from Mina. By God's grace, you people are doing a wonderful job. Thank you. It's quite educative. I wish you well. And every business should have a good plan. My name is Amina. I'm writing it from Ogun State. Actually, Sandwater. Thank you very much, Amina. And Fortune has something. Fortune says, Fortune John from Abuja, thanks for the inspiration of this program. I love the conversation. Thank you too. We believe that you'll be able to do better. Good morning, please. I don't support the idea of starting the business before registering it with CSC. What if along the lines someone goes and register the same business name for you? Okay.
Business name is inconsequential if you ask me, because you can always find a way around
you
that.
can always change the name.
You can change the name and so on and so forth. I'm not arguing with this. I'm just saying that in my experience, I've seen so many instances where people register a business name with the hope of starting a business one day. They don't even know what that business is going to be. You're just incurring unnecessary expenses.
All right, I think it's always there's always a bargaining power, but there should be a criterion price for every product. Yahoo boys go to buy jeans in the shop and don't pay, but I go to buy jeans in the same shop and I pay the seller. It's like something just about 10 pieces. All right, so she thinks you can always alter your and somebody says Del Van, you are welcome back. Okay, I don't know where you travel to, but you have to let us know. Anthony, I think this will be the last one. I'm very happy with this program. I am also a businessman. Thank you very much, Mr. Anthony, and we want to believe that we'll be able to respond to the rest of the people outside. They keep coming in tourists. We all need money, and to make money we need to invest money. That's what they say. Business is using money to chase money, but in chasing this money you also need to invest good character, good service. Good character is what I call customer service. Please don't shout at me because you think your goose is the best. Somebody on her status recently wrote, it's end of month and I need you guys to patronize me, but please don't ask me for price reduction because what I'm giving you is the best. I'm not reducing the price because my goods and services are the best. And I called her up. I said, this is wrong. There is always a thank you period for your customers. You may not do this, but I found out in Nigeria for the seasonal period when there is festivity, instead of people you're purchasing from giving them money to make money to say thank you, they're actually asking you anything for the boys when you don't pay finish. My director says my time is up. I wish you had more time to speak, and I must say thank you to everyone. Devon, as usual, you brought it. And madam, this is your laundry business, you teach me.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
And Blue Camel, all right, you stole the idea from somebody. I'm going to get closer so I can steal the idea from you. Right, we'll see you again. Please, whatever you do, passion, dedication and honesty, it's important for you to forge along. It's always difficult to move around with the hard times, but always remember, a cheerful owner of business brings in a cheerful buyer. I'll see you again next week.
Although social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless, it becomes harmful and damaging when used.
Together, no matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. Let's stop fighting each other. Let us live as one. It doesn't matter where you come from, your tribe or religion, man, woman or child. It doesn't matter who you are. Put Nigeria first. No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. How can we develop? We're always in crisis. Families have become refugees in their country. No matter our differences, show some understanding. No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's be together.
Hello and thanks for joining us on the news at 10 on NTA News 24. We are live in Abuja. I am Anne Jibuno. Here are the headlines.
Our commitment is to break what appears to be a change on agile quota steel complex and actualize the dream of a vibrant steel sector.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo promises federal government's commitment to harnessing benefits in mining industry. Nigeria vets diplomatic row with Republic of China as NNPC takes over Adex Petroleum and Exploration. 2023 budget defense exercise. More ministries, departments and agencies appear for rigorous scrutiny by legislators. Speedy dispensation of justice. Stakeholders dialogue criminal justice administration in Africa. As the nation opens a new chapter in the mining operations with the unveiling of the electronic mining cadastral system, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says the federal government will continue to intensify its regulatory and supervisory role in ensuring that mining is held to the highest standards of sustainable development and intergenerational equity. State House correspondent Gideon Ifade reports.
The global focus on clean energy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions is also in tandem with the aim of the federal government to diversify its economy by not relying solely on oil.
You can say without fear of contradiction that this administration has contributed and committed more resources to the development of the mining sector than any other government in the history of our country. Indices of development in the sector are rapidly changing. Part of these is the increased revenue generation and, of course, the unprecedented investment interest that the industry has attracted in the past few years.
In as much as government is encouraging intensification of exploration of these minerals, it is not oblivious of the pain being experienced from the negative exploration of crude oil in the Niger Delta, and therefore calls for caution.
The experience of the negative impact of oil exploration in the Niger Delta cannot be ignored. Therefore, all operators in the mining sector are now obliged by law and ethics and our responsibility for the future to ensure that proper environmental, social, and governance principles are practiced in the sector.
While assuring stakeholders of the commitment of the federal government to supporting mining activities towards a shared prosperity for Nigeria, he is optimistic that the electronic mining cadastral system will help improve the sector. The Vice President also placed on government's commitment to the development of the steel sector.
A transaction advisor has been appointed to concession the Ajaokuta Steel Company and the Nigerian Iron Ore Mining Company, TAPE. The selection process is going on, and our commitment is to break what appears to be a jinx on Ajaokuta Steel Complex and actualize the dream of a vibrant steel sector.
The future of the Nigerian extractive industry is predicted to be potentially in favor of such minerals. And the Nine Senate is convinced that this is the right step in the right direction, and we will do all we can as legislature at this auspicious period to ensure that the country takes full advantage of the opportunity.
We shall continually intensify our efforts to make our mining sector more competitive in the global mining space and to satisfy the needs of our domestic goals. We shall prioritize the development of critical minerals in clean energy transition and reduction in greenhouse emissions to zero.
The theme of the week-long conference of miners is Unlocking Nigeria's Mining Potential Through Collaboration. From the International Conference Center in Abuja, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
A diplomatic conflict between Nigeria and the Republic of China has been mitigated with the NNPC Limited's sealing of assets transfer agreement with ADAX Petroleum and Exploration, while Group Chief Executive Officer, NNPC Limited, Mele Kyari, applauds President Buhari for his leadership in resolving the issue amicably. Lydia Sampson reports that this is the first time assets are returned by contractors to concessionaire.
A series of engagements led the way to the seamless process that has culminated to the signing of the ADAX Petroleum exit. This means NNPC Limited now owns OMLs 123, 124, 126 and 137, a very significant agreement based on mutually acceptable terms. It was done in compliance with President Muhammadu Buhari's admonition for a peaceful exercise.
Definitely this collaboration resulted in where we are today, and we made progress.
Mr. President's directive have been executed amicably in a clean and speedy.
No doubt, this exit agreement today will help both commercial and diplomatic relations for the two nations.
We took all necessary steps to ensure clean, amicable, and speedy exit.
Key players are optimistic the agreement is to unlock 10,000 barrels per day oil production.
In our own capacity, we'll do our best to support the new agreement as required by the law.
The historic event is projected to strengthen diplomatic and commercial relations between Nigeria and China. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
Nigeria is resolved to hold international oil companies and industry operators accountable for massive environmental pollution in the country. Onengie Fineface tells us more.
Unprecedented challenges of pollution, climate change and biodiversity loss has informed the review of environmental regulations in Nigeria. Through these reviews, the federal government hopes to tackle deforestation, wildlife crimes and industry-related pollution, especially by oil and gas companies.
Government is set to institute an environmental task force, especially on oil pollution, and will monitor, track, evaluate, and sanction these erring IOCs and their local collaborators. The flagrant abuse of our coastlines, mangroves, natural habitats in the guise of prospecting or exploitation of oil resources must be checked.
The reviews are expected to guide enforcement of regulations to curb ecosystem degradation from mining, air, water, noise, and marine pollution.
We have much work ahead of us to control and manage the depletion of the environmental resources. It is a work we must collectively do to improve human well-being, safeguard the integrity of the environment, and provide prosperity for all.
The Nigeria Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency will also be better equipped to enforce sanctions on polluters when the reviews are implemented. Onengie Fineface, NTA News.
50 teenagers held in 2 hostels for prostitution have been rescued in Port Harcourt. They were rescued in a joint operation by the National Agency Against Trafficking in Persons, the Nigerian Navy ship NNS Pathfinder, and the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps. Kingsley Amajiri reports.
The rescue operation by NATIP, Nigerian Navy and NSCDC operatives followed a tip-off from concerned residents. The victims were rescued from 2 hotels in Dio, Port Harcourt, and the suspects arrested.
I will call them children or juveniles that are, some of them sadly are 14 years old, between the ages of 15, 16, 14, like that. So when they brought intelligence and they shared with us in conjunction with NSCDC, a team was set up and we went into action. And interestingly, you can see for yourselves the number of people that were brought out of the brothel.
NATIP says it would rehabilitate underage teenagers and ensure that those involved in the illegal human trafficking are prosecuted after investigation is concluded.
NATIP being the focal agency that has a mandate to fight all forms of human trafficking and sexual exploitation, is going to take it up from there. Before now, we've been conducting our investigation that led to this arrest.
The agency, however, called on parents and guardians to take proper care of their children and do proper investigation before giving out their children to people they do not know. In Port Harcourt, Kingsley Amajiri, NTA News.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has declared Lagos socialite and owner of Adeka's Hotel, Ademola Afolabi Kazim, wanted, with the offence bordering on exportation and trafficking of illicit drugs, as well as money laundering. This follows failure to honor NDLEA's invitations in a manner that implicates him as a drug trafficker. Subsequently, the agency has sealed 7 of the suspects' mansions in Lagos and Ibadan, while freezing 217 million naira in his bank account. Meanwhile, 2 suspects have been arrested at the Abuja and Port Harcourt international airports for smuggling cocaine into the country. You're watching the news at 10 on NTA News 24 Abuja. More reports after this break. Just stay with us.
The Committee of Friends of Senator Professor Sandy Ojangono invites the public to the presentation of his book entitled Foundations of Nigeria's Unity. The event will occur on Wednesday, 2nd November 2022 at the NAF Conference Center, Jahi, Abuja by 3 p.m. under the chairmanship of His Excellency Dr. Bukola Saraki, former Senate President of Nigeria. The book presenter is the Executive Governor of Rivers State, His Excellency Chief Ezenwe Wike, while Professor B.N. Ogbogo, the Director of Research at the Nigerian Army Resource Center, will review the book. His Excellency Dr. Ahmed Ibrahim Lawan, GCON, President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is a special guest of honor. And the host is Senator Professor Sandy Ojangono, Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, representing Cross River Central and PDP gubernatorial flag bearer. Announcer Professor Yakubu Aboki Ochefo for Committee of Friends.
Thanks for staying with us. To the National Assembly now. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has appealed to the Senate Committee on Information and National Orientation to do all within its powers to move for an increment to its 2023 budget proposal. The minister made the appeal when he appeared before the committee to explain 2022 budget performance and 2023 budget proposal. Anthony Forson reports.
We can do better than we are doing today if only we have the resources.
The Information and Culture Minister opened his presentation with a heavy heart how his ministry, despite the critical role it is saddled with within the governance process, does not get enough funds to carry out its mandate. Out of the 3.9 billion naira appropriated for the information and culture sectors in 2022, only 2.8 billion has been released for personnel cost as at the end of September, while about 526 million was released out of the 900 million appropriated within the same period.
Secondly, Mr. Chairman, sir, even if that administration today stops and does not do anything again, they should have enough money to publicize what it has done last 7 years. So if any time we need money, it is now. Our revenue projection is probably very poor, which I know. We are going to say, look, this year we are going to have a 30% cut or 50% cut on everybody. They should not apply to Ministry of Information and Culture.
On the 2023 budget proposal, the minister couldn't hide his frustration.
I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, sir, that if every ministry's budget is cut, mine should be increased. Because give me at least 2 billion this year, so I can tell the world what we have done in 7-8 years. And this is the only way you can keep reminding people of the achievement of the administration. And believe me, sir, when I talk about administration, it's not only the executive branch. It's about government. It is also your administration, sir.
When members of the committee engaged him on the way out, the minister placed the solution on the doorsteps of the lawmakers.
Please, if you can make a case for them to give me, I'll be very glad.
As it stands, the information sector has a budget proposal of over 653 million naira for 2023. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
The Nigerian Television Authority has put in place machinery aimed at reinvigorating the national broadcaster to meet its mandate in light of current realities. The Director General of the authority, Saliu Abdul Hamid Dembos, shared this vision during the 2023 budget defense at the Senate. National Assembly correspondent Vivian Idepepu reports.
This is the first budget defense by Salihu Abdulhamid Dembos as the Director General of the NTA. At the prompting of the Chairman, Senate Committee on Information, Danladi Abdullahi Sankara, the Director General gives an overview of the current fiscal year.
Capital 50% was released, which is equivalent to 986,178,550.
He also speaks on the current market realities with regards to revenue generation from advertising for traditional media.
I think it is to the knowledge of all that today the advertising budget, about 60% goes to the social media as against what it used to be obtained a few years back.
But you know, people also tune in to the NTA, especially at 9 or when you have your news, and you can take advantage of that.
Some of these things that you see on the network and also programs and what have you are coming from the government. We have a social responsibility. We are not fully commercialized, so certain things must have to be done in the interest of the nation, sir.
Answering questions on the benefits of the partnership between the NTA and the Chinese Television Corporation, Star Times, the Director General explains that there are no monetary benefits save for the digital advantage.
I realize that you have some partnership attached to NTA, such like Star Time. Apart from Star Time, there's what you people call NTA property. Please, can you brief us and tell us your relationship with those, your attachment?
The venture was in preparation for the DSO, and with the government position on the switchover, the benefit will begin to manifest more. But before now, if we check around, so many of our stations transmit both on terrestrial and also on the Star Times. And I think it is an added value to us. But monetarily, I can tell you that we don't have any benefit to report to the distinguished committee.
The chief executive officers of sister broadcasting organizations also had turns to defend their budgets. from the National Assembly.
The Ministry of Health has so far received 38.5 billion naira for the 2022 Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, which will increase the National Health Insurance Act beneficiaries with 820,000 adequate implementation of health intervention programs, and it resonated at the 2023 Budget Defense session of the Senate Committee on Health. Ignatius Unko reports on this and other budget defense sessions at the Senate.
Minister of Health Dr. Osage Ehaniwe, in company of management staff of the ministry, appeared before the Senate Committee on Health to defend the 2023 budget of 326.3 billion naira. The committee was particularly interested in knowing the status of the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund and the Cancer Fund.
And then you appointed one hospital back with political. Where are we now? How many patients are benefiting? How much of the fund has been utilized? With your permission, I would like to start with the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. Right. And that's a program officer here to give exactly those details you have requested.
The NHIS gateway, the 14 billion that has been allocated to NHIS gateway, will increase the number of enrollees to 1.1 million enrollees.
At the National Assembly Joint Committee on Power, the minister defended the 239.5 billion naira allocated to the Ministry of Power and its agencies for the 2023 fiscal year with explanations on major projects.
Honourable Minister, I will start with the Kaduna gas plant.
Power plant. You
haven't told us the percentage of completion that we have been funding that year in, year out.
82% completion. We have been talking with some funding agencies.
The Minister of State for Education, Goodluck Opia, defended the main ministry's 2023 budget of 99 billion naira before the Senate Committee on Basic and Secondary Education. The budget defense by the Minister of Defense, Bashir Magashi, before the Senate Committee on Defense was suspended by the committee, which insisted on the resuscitation of the largest ship in the fleet of the Nigerian Navy, NNS Aradu.
Until the committee on the Senate Committee on that set of Aradu, the SS Aradu, and then we give another date for the budget defense.
Chief of Army Staff, Major General Farouk Yahaya, defended the 2023 budget before the Senate Committee on Army. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
In the meantime, the Senate Committee on Trade and Investment has asked the Managing Director, Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority, to furnish it with evidence of remittances from September 2021 to September 2022. Chairman of the committee, Saidu Alkali, made the request during the 2023 budget defense of the authority. National Assembly correspondent Mobolaji Moribirin reports.
It's another round of budget defense as the Senate, and at this sitting it is assessing the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority, led by the Managing Director.
Our anticipated internally generated revenue of 2022 is 4.4 billion, but the actual was 2.9 billion. The expenditure proposal was 3.3 billion. What the actual expenditure up to September 30th is 2.6 billion.
Lawmakers raised concerns over slow pace of procurement, among other grey areas.
I'm sure anybody who did this procurement in June and you want to do the same procurement now, the same amount of money will not do it.
Supply of 150-liter deep freezer. This one too, for me, doesn't make sense because 150-liter, I don't know, you are buying, I don't know how many you are buying to empower the traders. You are spending 150 million.
From September last year to September this year, I want you to furnish this committee with the evidence of all your remittances on the IGR.
The committee, however, adjourned with the hope of meeting the management again when details of its remittances are made available. From the National Assembly, Mobolaji Moribirin, NTA.
Nigerian armed forces are on alert to neutralize any threat to security in the nation's capital and in contiguous states. Minister of Defense Bashir Magashi said this while responding to lawmakers in relation to the recent security advisory issued by the U.S. and other countries. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that it was during the presentation of the ministry's 2023 budget before the House Committee on Defense.
Bringing such information to public domain, the minister says, has some implications. This, he added, was why the National Security Council mandated the Foreign Affairs Ministry to interact with the U.S. Embassy on the matter.
There is no smoke without fire. And in that regard, we were able to subject the details to our intelligence organizations, and they have provided answers to those areas which the government is in doubt.
Turning to the 2023 budget proposal of the Defense Ministry, Bashir Magashi said it was targeted at actualizing the ministry's core mandate.
Personnel costs, 15 billion. Overhead costs, 2.2 billion. Capital expenditure, ministry's headquarters, 4.6 billion.
The House Committee on Defense is delighted with the successes recorded so far, especially in the last 5 months. We acknowledge these robust achievements, which is a proof of the level of professionalism often displayed by our military in the discharge of their duties.
The Chief of Army Staff, at his engagement with the House Committee on Army, enumerated the benefits of providing a trust fund for the armed forces, which he says will address some of the challenges of the envelope system.
Facilitate the passage of the Armed Forces of Nigeria Trust Fund Bill before the end of this assembly. The Nigerian Army will benefit from the passage of the bill through improved funding.
The 2023 budget now under consideration is about 600 billion. We know that funding is hardly enough, and this allocation remains a far cry from the operational and personal needs of the Army. But we urge judicious application of the provision, where we continue to work as a committee to look into ways of enlarging the figures.
The budget defense session between the House Committee on Commerce and Minister of Trade and Investment dwells on how Nigeria can tap into the vast export market.
To expand market access, stimulate investment, and encourage patronage of made in Nigeria products. That will be something that engenders some kind of hope that at least we are moving forward.
The minister stated that the introduction of the ease of doing business policy has improved the investment environment in Nigeria. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
You're on to the news at 10 on NTA News 24. Up ahead, speedy dispensation of justice, stakeholders dialogue on criminal justice administration in Africa.
Hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet and phone. Log on to visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. You can also download the iOS or Android app on your mobile devices to watch NTA International on the go, anywhere in the world. NTA International. Your window to the world.
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you. In your living room, office, and everywhere, anywhere. We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced, and up-to-date news, programs, and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel 251, Go TV channel 91, Freeview channel 264, or live streaming via www.visiontv.co.uk. And to watch NTA International in the USA, Canada, and Mexico, use the following satellite parameters. You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube